All right, warning everybody, I'm coming in. I don't want to scare you because we had no music. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to your Arc 6 live recording sessions. We're going to do 3 chapters today to make up for the one this week. So we're doing chapters, oh my god, 84 to 86. We are super excited to go today. It's going to be a longer stream, so thank you all for being here. Sorry for putting it up late. I should have the next 2 chapters, so Wednesday's readings and next Saturday will be our last Arc 6 read, and we're going to read the first chapter of Arc 7 because it rolls right into it nice and easy. So we have this is our last full week with Arc 6, which is bittersweet. I think a lot of us are tired, so we're very happy to be done, but also this is a really fun arc, and it was really fun to be with everyone for this. But do not despair, we will be back with Arcs 2 to 4 for live streams in the next couple weeks. We'll need a little bit of a break to recalibrate and keep working on Arc 7. But Arc 7 is underway and moving forward. So, yay! So many good things. The boys will be recording an Arc 9 podcast coming up this week. And they have some other things planned as well. So we got lots more stuff coming your way. Thank you all for being here today. Without further ado, let's bring on the entire team.
Where? I could have been the distributor.
Hello.
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 Hello. Sorry for yelling.
Yeah.
How dare you? We just did all those audio checks and you come in and yell. Unacceptable.
Unacceptable!
You shook me to my core so hard that I'm not even the same person anymore, actually.
What, this owl stand number 3?
Can you just be
Yeah, you know, this is number like 11 actually. You killed me and the like 9 after, so
They're not supposed to know we have a cloning facility in the basement, god damn it.
yeah, well,
when one goes down, the next
Well, we get it.
I guess the body's out of the closet.
Oh my god.
When does the number 2 melee fan come in?
Whenever number 1 fails.
So Common, here's the fun thing. They don't.
Which
no, they will. Everyone's gonna love her in season 4, and we know it.
Yes,
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
Liliana.
Yep.
Same with Shala.
Dude, okay, yeah.
The Liliana treatment.
Okay, well, hey. Hey,
It's not fun.
me and Brad will fight.
It's fun. I didn't think there's a difference there.
Look, me and Drat had an entire hey, fuck yeah, in BC over Shala, or liking Shala, so
Thank you
she's
so much,
plenty
Phil.
fine.
Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to say a big thank you to Jay Dudley for joining the hosting company. Thank you, Marcos, for the $5 dues. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Chilled, for the 5 memberships. Oh my god.
Woo woo.
It's
I'm on
hard.
$5. Woo woo.
What did you just say? Sorry?
You said.
The 5 bucks.
That is not
Actually,
There was a big gap in between.
Wait a minute, I
Thank
don't
you
want to
very
see
much.
that.
Not a coherent
Where this-
sentence.
Where the Studio Reverie clip is when you need them.
Yeah.
What did
Let's
we- what
introduce
did
ourselves
we
from
mean
top to
by
bottom
this?
before we do more crazy stuff and roll into the chapters, okay? We're going to be unhinged
Hi.
today. We have a lot of work to
I'm
do.
Al, take it
Okie
away.
dokie.
Al number 11.
Okie dokie. Hi, I am Al number 11. I have come as a replacement for all the other Als that have spontaneously died in the basement. I am a bit of a, wisdom, I'm here to play Reed because the other Al was here to play Reed, and then he died, so I also have to narrate. Hello, anyways. Now to the
Paladin.
captor, who I have just learned is my captor.
Connor, please.
I guess that's me. I'm Connor.
Yeah.
I'm your voice for Rom and Julius. It's super important today.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. Okay. Grew here, one of the editors of Studio Reverie, and one of the people in the basement.
Yay!
I'm still alive somehow.
He witnessed me die.
I am Carmen, another editor for Studio Reverie, as well as the voice of Lai and your stand-in Volcanica.
Woo woo. I'm Kyles. I'm Amelia. I will also be covering Echidna today. Actually, I am Echidna.
What?
I will be Echidna. What do you mean, what? She's been here for so long!
All I see is quote Anastasia unquote.
Quote, Anastasia, unquote, Echidna.
I cannot believe that I was spoiled on this crucial plot point. It is
Was
great.
I speaking in a southern trash accent? No, I've been talking like this.
I told all of you that Kyle spoiled the
What?
ending for the Demon Slayer movie, right?
Fuck
Wait,
up.
what?
Oh yes, yeah. You said you fucking told us
We've
about
just reconstructed the booth, Kyles, please.
Sorry.
Have
Tealdi,
mercy.
take it away.
Hi, I'm Tealdi. I have no accents today. I'm narrating one chapter near the end, and yeah, hello.
It's a lot of pages.
I now, after you said that,
It do be a lot.
imagined You just all in complete monotone, no accents to speak of. Just
This is the voice you get. It is almost like I have been replaced by AI. Oh no.
Oh no.
This is
No,
problem.
no,
Tay-I,
oh
Yaldi.
no.
Tealdi.
Tay-A-L-D. Tay-A-L die. Oh, hey, it came back. Never mind, we're good. I can emote. Yay!
Yippee! And hello everyone, Wolf here. I am your Subaru. I'm also your Wolfiana in Arc 5. Isn't that fun? But I am your Subaru today. But I am also a narrator today. I'm very excited because I love to narrate. Very fun. And it's a big chapter. One of, if not my favorite, of Arc 6. So.
Yeah, I'm editing that chapter. Hell yeah.
Oh hell yeah! Let's go.
Woo!
But yeah, welcome
So
everyone.
you can harass
f-
Wolf about it if he messes
What?
with lines.
I
Yeah,
wasn't thinking of that.
don't worry. No one does. No one asks me for anything. I always get so sad. I'm like,
Because you do such a great job.
well, thank you. But I just in general, I'm just like, if anyone needs anything, I'm here. Just let me know. And I
Can I get the back rub?
I look at my DMs all the time. I'm just getting random messages here and there from friends every now and then. I'm just like, but where are my big important messages?
Can I get a water bottle down in the basement?
True. I do have the
Can we
important
get
role
freedom?
of cooking for everyone in the basement. And by cooking, I mean making the sandwich. The basement
He makes beans on
portions.
toast. He makes us beans on toast.
Yeah.
Oh, yum.
Do you know,
Oh,
I
yummy.
make sure to
Mm.
add at least a whole jar of Marmite in there for you guys.
Oh,
Oh.
ew, never mind.
Oh. Never mind. Yeah, that's
Okay,
a Mamma
so-
Mia, actually.
Thank you
Mamma
again,
mia.
Marcus.
Thank you,
we
Marcus.
do love it. I'm going to have to be the bad guy today and cut the banter off so fast. We have 3 long chapters.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would
Oh,
love to cut it, but
man.
Kyle's is not at her station, and this is her chapter. So
Well, damn.
This is a crying us all for time.
cut you down like the
Like,
dog you are.
If we started the chapter, I would have to say the title like really slowly, because that's an Amelia line immediately.
Uh-oh.
I have to go. Oh, chapter.
I can't believe you spoiled who was in this chapter for me, even though I already said it.
Ah!
God,
Oh, I'm
how
sorry, that's
dare
my
you,
bad.
Al?
Now they're gonna know that Amelia is like the first. Oh,
Connor tried
yeah,
to be
guys.
down.
Amelia dies in this chapter.
Connor tried to
Only
be
when we're
down
live,
and
chilled.
immediately shut down.
Wow, that's crazy.
I'm part of the problem, and before we get unmuted, that's stream
Yeah.
starts.
You are part of the problem. You're all part of the problem. It's a good thing we like
See,
you.
he acts like a goody two shoes now.
But he's devious.
We were doing Waluigi's of the different characters.
Oh my fucking god.
Except it kind of went between Waluigi, Papyrus,
Papyrus and
and
Skeletor.
yeah, it was all over the place.
I'm sitting here literally face palming. Disgrace.
Yeah, because we were doing Waluigi.
Cringe.
Yeah, I can't believe you're not offended by Waluigi.
How dare you have
Baru.
fun and unwind and unmask? Who are you?
Mhm.
Gross.
This is a professional environment. Okay?
Where? Mm.
I
Is
promise.
it cringe? That feeling when knee surgery is tomorrow?
What?
You don't know about knee surgery tomorrow?
I took
Knee
it.
surgery is
Oh
just
my
Just a
god.
little.
knee surgery is like level 5 shit. I have hip surgery later or before. Get on that
That
stronger
feeling.
shit, dude.
That
I've
feeling
had
when
4
knee surgery is tomorrow.
C-sections.
Okay, well,
That might
This is
take-
back, right?
yeah, when we're comparing a bit of agony here,
Yeah.
that might be a bit of the
I
top
love
of
how
the list.
Tiani's just like, and here I am.
I've
Like I
had
stubbed my toe earlier today, you know,
I've
like
had 4
you stubbed my
children
toe.
popped out, removed from me, and then you have to take care of them.
I stubbed my toe. I had childbirth 4 times.
You know, I burnt
think
my
Taildy
fingers on
wins.
some really hot ramen.
Oh.
Oh,
brutal.
ow.
Ooh.
Was it the roof of your
Ouch.
mouth? Did you also then burn the roof?
Oh,
of your
roof of mouth is terrible
Yeah.
because then you get like a
Both.
little blister there, and then
Oh.
randomly
Mhm.
later it just
Oh, yeah,
is
and then
like,
it's rough.
"Hi, remember me?" Bleh.
You ever try to voice act with a burnt tongue?
Fucking
Yes.
sucks.
It
Yeah.
I've tried to talk with one, but never voice act.
I may have once hastily made food, and it was a very Subaru heavy chapter, and I may have scalded my
Oh.
tongue a little.
Oh no!
Twas not.
Hey Subaru, why are you talking like this, Reverie?
I'm so sad.
Oh, no.
Reverie, why are you talking like this?
Kyle's, please tell me you're back.
I'm back. I was waiting. I was enjoying your suffering. Whenever you're all ready.
I think we should start.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
Please.
you all should. Goodbye.
Bye.
Arc 6, Chapter 84. Heave ho! Heave ho!
Stabilizing an imiji was essential in constructing ice in accordance with imagination.
Back when Subaru had initially proposed Ice Brand Arts to her as well, she had considered it to be extremely handy, but Amelia remained insecure on whether she'd be able to pull it off.
It's all right. No need to worry. Amelia-tan will surely be able to do it.
So ascertained Subaru to an uncertain Amelia with his thumb raised, she recalled. Now that she thought of it, that too had been completely unfounded. No, Amelia believed Subaru had supported her back with his reason being, because I like you. In course of creating weapons she imagined, Amelia had gone on to study illustrating arts aplenty. Unlike songs, studying illustration was not a specialty of hers, yet by drawing time and time again with Subaru, she was met by definite improvement. From the sidelines during her studies, as they watched Amelia draw with Subaru and Beatrice, Ram would be amazed, Otto would smile wryly, Frederica and Petra would occasionally join in, and Garfield would advise her on what would be better. Roswell, too, would observe Amelia and Beatrice drawing from a distance every so often. For Amelia, these were reminiscences tremendously, immensely valuable, extingent to part ways from. Reminiscences which had disappeared for everyone, but were remembered by Subaru. Upon the advent of that thought, a warm emotion surged deep inside her chest.
I'll turn that into courage with a hiya!
Those surging emotions as a driving force, accompanied by the weapons of ice she had produced and the 7 soldiers of ice which advanced alongside her, Amelia tackled the divine dragon Volcanica before herself. As per the aforementioned explanation, the image was essential in the shaping of ice. Naturally, that was the case with weapons, but also what the case of the soldiers of ice brought forth. In other words, the soldiers of ice had been configured to shape easy for Amelia to image. To summarize, fighting alongside Amelia were 7 of Natsuki Subaru.
But they're more powerful and quick than the real Subaru. So
Now, Subaru would not lose in naughtiness and frolicsomeness either. His structure differed from that of the soldiers created with ice as their very foundation. The soldiers' strength depended on the density of the mana bestowed upon them by Amelia and could not be compared to simple sculptures of ice. They were the same as weapons of ice, able to hold their own against steel.
Go!
Abiding by Amelia's command, the ice warrior at the forefront plunged into Volcanica's range. Volcanica did not move, remaining reclined on the colossal pillar at the center of the first floor of the watchtower, the range of its earlier tail whip being 4 to 7 meters. That instant, as if it had detected the will to cling onto the pillar, the azure dragon swung its tail with great velocity. Making an eccentric sound which could only be described as a hole gaping open in the air. The following moment, the upper body of the ice warrior in the vanguard got smashed to smithereens. Having taken a direct hit to the chest area, the trunk of the ice warrior shattered in two at that spot, as its head, taking after Subaru and the shark look of his eyes, was blown off.
Sorry, but you would have aimed. But you would have been aimed for regardless of my presence.
While apologetic towards the frost soldier used as a litmus test, she now understood what exactly was Volcanica's aim. Though the divine dragon had become senile, had blanked out about the examination as well, the will to intercept all opponents distinctly aiming for the pillar yet remained alive within it. Regardless of the existence or non-existence of said opponent's life, henceforth, she wielded a course of action.
Soldier sons, please!
In concert with Amelia's voice, the ice warriors rushed forth, overtaking the silver-haired young girl. The first one had been smashed to smithereens, leaving 6 ice warriors, each of them scattering in separate directions, headed towards the central pillar whilst creating a faint time lag.
Common.
Sensing the presence of the approaching ice warriors, the divine dragon repeated its vocal message yet again. Seeing it relay that which was naught but an enumeration of words now devoid of meaning, to dolls possessing no ears to hear with, made Amelia feel potent desolation and a heart-wrenching sense of misery. Despite having been turned into this shape, Volcanica was trying to protect something, though she did not know with whom, with what, and for what purpose it had exchanged that promise. Within the blink of an eye, 2 of the ice warriors armed with weapons were shattered with a swing of the tail. Though each had taken a defensive stance as an instantaneous response, one had everything below its waist blasted off, the other had its right half of its body subjected to the same as they crumbled, unable to make any decent movement. Hence the remaining 4 headed for the tail, returning to its original position from the attacking stance to keep it in check. In the present moment, Volcanica's means to counterattack were restricted to single swipes of the tail. It was possible that not only had it become senile, but its legs and loins had become weaker and unsteady as well. If it was in a state in which simply standing up was arduous for it, then pinning down that tail would be sufficient.
Brace yourselves!
With the aim of immobilizing the tail, 3 ice warriors joined their arms together, standing side by side. Attempting to mow down those ice warriors all at once, yet again the tail of the divine dragon deserted sound behind. Though similar to the whip Subaru used in arrangement, its pace and might was in a completely different league. Had it been Subaru's whip, then Amelia would be capable of catching it barehanded, but that would be impossible for the dragon's tail whip, with potency which would make any ordinary living being their entire might. The divine dragon hurled it with listlessness, akin to brushing away insects. The impact brought forth by that tail once again struck the 3 ice warriors lined up side by side with lowered waists. However, the intense sound of shattering, which was supposed to have echoed, did not resound there, for she had generated a wall of ice behind the 3 ice soldiers with lowered waists which had supported them. Should she know that the strike was coming, she would have countermeasures prepared. Despite the entirety of their bodies developing cracks, the ice warriors, taking after the young boy with a sharp expression of eyes, raised the edges of their mouths, and from the rear of the 3 who had halted the impact, the remaining final one jumped ahead, having been charged with a separate wall. What the final ice warrior wielded was a weapon known as the Sasumata. On the spearhead of the handle, similar to a long arrow, a curve-shaped fitting with the purpose of not stabbing but subduing the opponent was fixed, seemingly called so for its usage as a catcher. Using that Sasumata to thrust it down, it pinned the divine dragon's ill-mannered tail down onto the floor. The dragon's tail had ceased its movement. Even its utmost slim end of the tail was bulky like a log, impossible of being held back by simply one Sasumata. Hence the cracked three, one after the other, tackled it with their own Sasumata as well. And 4 convenient points were arrested by the multiple Sasumata, and even the divine dragon had its tail blocked. The subsequent instant, with the sound of the world being splintered, the bodies of the 4 ice warriors were gouged in their entirety. Everything upwards of their hips had vanished cleanly, and with only their lower bodies left, the ice warriors crumbled. The one responsible was not the tail having gone serious after it being immobilized, but rather claws. Lying on the floor, Volcanica used its left frontal limb in place of its tail. By merely that, Amelia's soldiers of ice had been extinguished with certainty and without escape. She had narrowly escaped being tricked into believing that it had become infirm.
If both the limbs and tail are doing well. Jeez. Why is that the only important thing blank? What's wrong with your brain? I get that already. Jeez.
Repetition, which would have driven anyone into further frenzy, except for Amelia. Despite having to hear it, Amelia's resolved spirit of challenge would not shatter. What could be shattered were only the soldiers of ice, though, naturally, that did slightly hurt her heart.
It's alright. It's not as if I don't get to do anything.
Asserting that the death of the shattered ice warriors had not been in vain, Amelia too headed towards the tail's range. However, the many Sasumata of ice suppressing the tail still stood strong, rendering the sacrifice of the 4 ice soldiers worthwhile. Thus, naturally, claws will now aim for Amelia instead of the tail, but...
The reach of both your hands is shorter than the tail. Yeah? And also...
4 of those claws could seize Amelia. Ice spears passed by Amelia and drew near the divine dragon. They had been hurled by ice warriors brought forth once again in Amelia's rear, at their original positions. The maximum number of ice warriors Amelia could create was 7, but it was possible for them to be recreated whenever they got shattered. In other words, the ice warriors could stand up again however many times until Amelia exhausted her strength. Just like the real Natsuki Subaru. Upon the incessant downpour of ice spears outside their range, Volcanica slammed its forelimbs right in front of itself. That singular strike seemed as if it were rending space, producing a shockwave that appeared to leave an eternal mark of its claws, swallowing the entirety of the first floor, including Amelia and the ice warriors. Whilst halting the impact on her body brought by the shockwave, Amelia strained her amethyst-colored eyes. The central pillar Volcanica was protecting, its firmness was solid, and she had not been able to carefully observe the pillar yet either. From a distant view, it appeared to be no different from the other 5 pillars, but that judgment too was premature. However, what Amelia sought utmost here instead of the central pillar itself was...
located on its top, the tower's summit.
Undauntedly stepping into the gale, Amelia kicked the floor with might on that very spot. She was yet too distant to take any action regarding Volcanica or the pillar. However, stepping ahead here was the correct answer. For an ice warrior, restored from its initially shattered state, lowered its waists and prepared its hands. And supporting Amelia's feet as she stepped ahead with both its hands, it assisted her into a leap towards greater height at once. Having pinned down the tail, directing its attention to the pillar, she used that interval and headed towards the uppermost stratum, which she sought the utmost. Though a combination Amelia would not make reckless use of, Amelia's intuition had told her the summit of the tower was what she had to reach, having come this far. The great leap, which had borrowed an ice warrior's assistance, using it to jump above Volcanica's head in one go, she made for the topmost surface of the pillar. She simply ascend to the uppermost stratum from there.
Huh?
That following instant, as Amelia attempted to make her fingers reach the pillar, a tranquil heat wave grazed her feet. No, it was not tranquil. Sound had simply died at its hands at the exceeding might and heat. If it had killed the very concept of sound, it would be no enigma for it to have converted into a soundless phenomenon. Amelia's perception had Amelia's perception had perceived the extinguishment of ice warriors deployed across the first floor. One which had lent its hands to aid Amelia's jump, the four which had thrown ice spears in support, the two which had sprinted for supplementing Sasumadas, disappeared at the same second, and what had accomplished this had been neither Volcanica's tail nor its forelimbs. Indeed, the death wail of air being scorched could be heard from its mouth, which had never parted with its majesty. With the arrival of another one of its reiterations into her ears as a start, Amelia comprehended the resuscitation of the killed concept of sound, while, at the same time, her fingers reached for the surface at the top of the pillar. Somehow desperately fixing her body, Amelia looked down below. There, spreading wide, was the first floor, charred white. White fumes akin to smolders rose from White fumes akin to smolders rose from multiple spots, with not even the wreckage of ice warriors which had supposedly existed left behind. Such might, such heat, such annihilation. The breath of the divine dragon Volcanica had burnt all to naught.
Both the tail and the legs are doing well, and it can't even spit fire. And yet... I get it already. I really do get... Oh.
Responding with a lack of grievousness, taking into account the events that had occurred, Amelia widened her eyes midway through. Steadily, the eyes of the divine dragon aimed upwards, the yellow eyeballs reflecting Amelia within themselves, and... Whilst pronouncing so, Volcanica unfolded both of its blue wings and stood up at its position.
Big trouble.
Comprehending the hazard of the events occurring below, Amelia extended her hand towards the topmost surface of the tower in great panic. In the interlude that she was preoccupied with that, Volcanica deracinated its tail, being restrained by the Sasumadas, and sought to slowly flap its wings. It intended flight. It was, after all, the divine dragon Volcanica. Flying for it would have been a matter of course. But since Amelia had never seen a flying dragon, her sense of reality had been puny. First of all, would such a creature with a body so gigantic truly be able to soar in the skies?
I've only ever seen Puck and Rosball fly, too.
It was ineluctable that Puck, a spirit, and Roswell, an eccentric magician, would fly. From what she had heard in the Valachian Empire to the south, there existed flying dragons named winged dragons that were similar to ground dragons or water dragons. Possibly, Volcanica was also considered a winged dragon. Or perhaps to categorize dragon and dragon might be an error in itself.
Heave ho! Heave ho! Heave!
Letting out an enthusiastic cry, Amelia clambered towards the tower's top at her greatest possible speed. Though from a distant view, her speed was jaw-droppingly astonishing. Even if Amelia were to make a fortunate effort beyond common sense, she lacked one card to be able to desert everything behind and dash on ahead. She had not been hallucinating in hearing that voice from a distance closer than before. Because she had not managed to leave everything below her behind, the pronouncement had ascended to the same altitude as hers, unfolding both of its blue wings, an Unfolding both of its azure wings, an unbelievably humongous frame fluttered midair. Majestic and dignified, the divine dragon Volcanica soared to the skies of the sand dunes, the pressure of its presence ignorant to its decline. The air of intimidation it emitted, or the glint of its eye glaring at the impotent opponent, its tail or its forelimbs, even its breath. None of it turned traitor to it being a hyper-ranked dragon chronicled in legends. However, the singularity which did turn traitor to that.
I intend to go to the first floor, so I may not be your enemy.
Or the voice conveying it possessed no ears to hear from as Amelia clung to the pillar. Volcanica's menace resumed pursuit of her. Inhaling, Amelia gritted her molars and borrowed the power of a foothold which did not exist there, and jumped over the tail whip.
Yahoo!
Practical usage of ice-brand arts. Rather than clambering up that pillar, she had installed footholds at its flanks, accelerating her speed by jumping above them.
Would the limbs become free too?
The instantaneously drawn twin swords of ice energetically repelled the slamming tail away. A strike swung whilst relying on guesswork, and due to its vigor, both of Amelia's arms, from her wrists to her elbows, went numb, rendering her seemingly unable to wield another novel weapon for the multiple seconds it would take for her to stand up. However, in contrast to the damage taken by Amelia, Volcanica had simply swung its tail. Despite its transiency, the divine dragon resumed the same conduct as before, swinging its tail towards the challenger, its endeavor being to knock down, no, to crush the opponent seeking to capture the pillar. Amelia's breath hitched in response to that approaching tail. Should she be repelled once, she did not perceive that she would have enough stamina left to reach the pillar once again. Should she suffer a direct hit from the tail notched with scales, she would surely be left in a terrible state. She could not let that tail's attack connect.
I can still work really hard.
She could not use her arms. However, she could move her legs. She could aim for the top. Though she had created footholds in order to aim for the top, that alone would not be sufficient. There was a limit to the number of ice ploys she could generate at once. She could not let that labor go to waste. Fulfilling the purpose of the footholds, she would then be met by that which was endless.
I got it.
Yet another tail whip drew near Amelia, to whom a great idea had just occurred. Amelia somehow evaded it by borrowing the ordinary power of the footholds and bringing forth the new foothold she had thought of towards the pillar. She ingeniously grasped that hand by extending her own.
Please, Soldier-san.
Responding to that voice of Amelia's, the one to creak its arm constructed of ice was the Ice Warrior taking after Subaru, having been generated yet again after being burnt to annihilation, but merely its upper body. Not simply a foothold, but an existence which functioned both as a foothold as well as a reliable ally of Amelia's. A path of ice soldiers with simply their upper bodies grew out of the pillar one after the other. Since they simply had their upper bodies growing out of the pillar and she did not have to create their legs, she could also raise the number to greater than 7. Making about 10 of them now grew out of the pillar at once. Amelia balled their hands and headed upwards.
All right.
Borrowing the hands of the upper bodies of ice growing out of the pillar in a literal sense, Amelia climbed towards the topmost surface of the pillar. Meanwhile, Volcanica did attempt to obstruct Amelia, but the men on the pillar hindered it from the side. Adhering to its trait of protecting the pillar, Volcanica was unable to leave the ice warriors on that pillar. The generated ice warriors hurled swords and axes of ice towards Volcanica, and as the divine dragon repelled them, it hunted the ice warriors on the pillar one by use of its tail or forelimbs. Although, whilst Amelia headed towards the pillar's top, its top.
Though this spot is a bit tough.
To have overcome the hazard would be somewhat too lively an impression, but with the ice soldier's strength and sacrifice as the foundation stone, Amelia's hands had finally reached for the topmost surface of the pillar. Though she would reach the uppermost stratum of the tower in about 10 more meters, the topmost surface of the pillar had a curve akin to that of a rat guard, so climbing hereon would be a deed of utmost difficulty. Though the situation was one wherein even people who specialized in mountain climbing would be troubled. However, Fortunately, Amelia specialized in tree climbing. In the past, her zeal for it had led her to be scolded by Fortuna and Archie.
The numbness in my fingers is also alright. Now I can.
Regaining sensation in her numb fingers, Amelia tackled the bend, unkind pillar. Grasping the hand of the ice warrior growing upside down on the slant, she drifted her legs midair towards the unstable skies, but thanks to the ice warrior's assistance, her climb was steady. What remained was only for Volcanica's obstruction to be. That moment, her mind became unfocused for a beat, and the twist of fate occurred intrusively. The potent jolts that broke out were caused by a severe strike into the pillar by Volcanica's tail as it articulated so. It transmitted the impact throughout the entirety of the pillar, thoroughly fissuring the ice warriors that had solely their upper bodies growing out of their pillars, shattering them at once. And the ice warrior lending its hand to Amelia on the slant was no exception.
Ah,
The hand she had grasped shattered, starting at the shoulder, and Amelia's body fell, having lost its support. The ice warrior, donning mean-looking eyes, attempted to halt her, but neither of its hands could reach anymore. Instantly, a feeling of suspension enveloped the entirety of Amelia's body, putting Amelia's risky climb up the pillar to waste, invalidating it all and placing her back onto the first floor. That was not what occurred.
yeah!
Amelia had supposed to have been fallen down multiple tens of meters the height of the pillar she had attempted to clamber. Amelia inhaled upon that premonition. However, something caught Amelia's bottom unexpectedly quickly. Not an ice warrior. From her instincts, all of the ice warriors growing out of the pillar had been shattered. Furthermore, her hands were immediately touching something rugged and rigid.
Could it be?
A voice reached her from close proximity as Amelia confirmed the winds of high heights and the sensation below her hips. Due to the nearness of that voice, Amelia made a delayed realization that she had fallen on top of the divine dragon Volcanica's back.
Stay focused. From here, I may
Be able to use Volcanica as a foothold and reach the pillar once again. So planned Amelia, but the distress of being unable to execute that with ease descended upon her. Flapping its wings, Volcanica ascended and twisted its body, intending to throw her off.
be able to. Ah!
Enduring the mighty, powerful wind assailing upon her body, Amelia desperately clung to the dragon's spine. Physical wind Amelia had never felt up until now. What she was clinging to was scales, every single one of them colossal with tenacity akin to that of rocks, and she would not be able to persist for long should things remain this way. Furthermore, Volcanica was merely flying in the sky with freedom. She was not basking in a tailwhip hammer arm, much less its dragon breath. It was merely flying with vigor, seeking to make the clinging Amelia fall. Should she lose to this, it would be far too...
I wouldn't be able to look Subaru and everyone else in the eye anymore.
Should she heedlessly open her mouth, her lungs could possibly be exploded from the wind rushing inside. Her eyes cast downwards, her molars gritted tightly, Amelia thought back to the people she had cherished behind her eyelids. It was like she was prepared to die, but that was not the case. The purpose of Amelia thinking of the people she cherished was so that she could face forward, for her to be given a push on her back, and to gain the courage to look ahead. Even while being swallowed by tremendous winds, Amelia forced her eyelids to open. Her circumstances were such that she had to pour the entirety of her strength, or she would be unable to even open her eyelids. In its mist, without losing the strength of her amethyst eyes, Amelia dared to open her eyes to discover a means to survive. Humans were beings who would end up closing their eyes in times of being crushed by fright and insecurity, but the people whom Amelia cherished, depicted behind her eyelids, faced forwards in precisely such times. They were people who did not close their eyes. They were people who did not close their eyes in times precisely as those. She must have her eyes remain open, in order to reach for something, in order to hold onto someone's hand, and
That's strange.
in every place, above and below, left and right, everywhere, the spectacle was dominated by azure. Though Amelia being in skies above clouds was also a reason, it was also because the divine dragon Amelia was clinging to was clad in brilliant azure scales. Since everything aside from that quickly passed due Since everything beside from that quickly passed by due to their exceedingly high speed, even Amelia's perception of moving bodies, which could discern the path of even a thrown ball like a steam, could not capture the world within itself. Thus, what Amelia's awareness had captured was not the world aside from what was azure. While twisting, turning its body, Volcanica soared. It seemed the area Amelia was clinging to was around the base of Volcanica's wings. Enigmatically, the dragon did not move with its wings with that much engagement. Though it was necessary for birds and insects to flutter their wings for flight, the principle of the dragon's flight appeared to be different. It was surely close to Puck or Roswell's mechanism for flying. If so,
Roswell used magic. Puck, too, used a mysterious power, so.
unfortunately, never had she tried this with Roswell, nor did she intend to. However, for an intensive duration, Amelia had lived and spent time together with her family, whom she thought comprised of solely one. For this singular year, they had been separated, and there had been multiple instances of her feeling incredibly lonely. Sometimes she cried at night, but reminiscences provided support through it, and the voice present even within those reminiscences showed hope to Amelia in this present time. That was
I'm just guessing here, but could it be that you also don't like to have your neck tickled?
the amethyst eyes opened with force, captured the long neck of the divine dragon, twisting its frame. Below that great draconic jaw, and missed the uniform blue scales with a sole white scale. The days of frolicking about with Puck dawned onto Amelia's mind.
Stop it, Leah! If you do it so softly, then my concentration will get disturbed, you know?
Isn't that right, Puck?
Accompanied with a responding voice, Amelia concentrated her consciousness. Amidst this mighty wind, Amelia did not possess the strength to directly reach that white scale. However, what she had learned by the pillar could be resuscitated even should the other party change from an inorganic to an organic substance.
Soldier San!
Ahead of Amelia's cognizance, the soldiers of ice once again appeared around the white scale. Ice soldiers which were solidly supporting each other with merely their upper bodies and one that was born, the core, steadily extended its hand towards the white scale. For the first time, Amelia heard a voice apart from the divine dragon's repetitions. Reverse scale, there existed a phrase like this. This phrase, originating from ancient Chinese traditions, spoke of the mythological being dubbed dragons, each possessing a singular scale which ought not to be touched on their neck, called a reverse scale. A dragon whose reverse scale were to be touched would become enraged and with certainty would kill the other person. Originating from that custom, to touch a part of the opponent which ought not to be touched came to be expressed with the phrase, touching the reverse scale. Of course, Amelia possessed no reason to be aware of such origins of historic phrases from another world. She sought to touch the white scale on the dragon's neck in order to muddle the concentration of the opponent, which was vigorously flying about, attempting to make her fall in by an interval of time. However,
Yeah!
screaming as she was hurled into the air, Amelia witnessed the earth and heavens revolve round and round for her. However, her suspension in midair lasted even shorter this time compared to when she had landed on the dragon's spine earlier. Caught by a solid sensation, Amelia instantly protected herself and tumbled, and, nimbly standing up at that spot, she remained cautious regarding her environs.
Ah,
Breathing hoarsely, Amelia glanced around her environs. Fortunately, there were no hints of an abrupt attack sailing down upon Amelia. That too was a matter of course. At present, Volcanica, the subject of her utmost vigilance, was far, far above. As if extraordinarily revolted. As if extraordinarily revolted by its white scale having been touched, Volcanica agonized as it ascended to higher skies. With the echo of a whale ostensibly crunching the sky, Amelia involuntarily rounded her eyes.
Puck used to enjoy it, though.
Regardless, it was up to person. Regardless, it was up to each person to enjoy it or not to enjoy it. Admonishing herself to not become too pushy, Amelia confirmed the sensation in her limbs. Having been tremendously swung about by Volcanica, the blood flow of her body had become slightly disarrayed. Depending on the situation, hindrances in one's blood flow resulted in the phenomena of losing vision due to the lack of blood flow into the brain, but Amelia had managed to barely hold out, and with that information, Amelia took notice.
This place is...
Upon looking around, Amelia's field of vision was a stratum above, compared to the time when she had arrived at the first floor. The absence of 6 pillars supposed to be in her inner environs was proof of her having arrived at an altitude above their apex. To name, precisely this place was the uppermost stratum. She had reached it in the form of getting dropped off of Volcanica's back. The uppermost stratum of Pleiades' watchtower and untrodden territory at last.
Woo! I did it! Working hard and persevering paid off!
With a modest reaction to the emotionally moving happenings, Amelia put her hands on her chest and made haste towards the center of the uppermost stratum immediately. Should she act nonchalantly, the agonizing Volcanica may return. Before that came to pass, she had to cover the examination as to save as to save Subaru and the rest.
Please, give me a problem that even I know the answer to.
Though Volcanica, having forgotten the examination, was a problem as well. What was another problem for Amelia was whether she would be able to solve. What was another problem for Amelia was whether she would even be able to solve the examination of the first floor in the first place. Bearing that fear, Amelia headed towards the center of the uppermost stratum, and, arriving at the base of the pillar extending to the heavens there, Amelia said, "Ah," and widened her eyes. There it was, a peculiarity not possessed by the 6 pillars in the floor below. There certainly was the enigmatic peculiarity possessed solely by the pillar in the center of this uppermost stratum. It was...
Someone's handprints?
At the uppermost stratum of Pleiades' watchtower, at the base of the pillar in its center, was a black monolith. And on that black monolith were handprints. 6 handprints of respective differing men and women had been printed. And that is the chapter.
Ooh, one down.
Fuck, I'm fucked up. I'm fucked up.
You did great!
I'm sleep deprived. That's my excuse. I'm sleep deprived. Surely.
Ain't we all?
Join the club.
Yeah.
Yes.
When I first read that chapter, I didn't fully realize that she, one, made the soldiers into Subaru, but 2, that she literally had these Subaru soldiers fucking in the wall to step on.
Yeah, I did. I like
have
some
a
of that. I was
Subaru.
reading. I was like, wait, dead ass. What the fuck? His body's coming out of the.
I
I love that for him.
Visceral.
I can't wait for the anime and then people to just do the fucking memes of Amelia stepping on Icy Subaru.
It's gonna
Oh,
be
yeah.
1,000 comments of why couldn't it be me?
Why couldn't it be me?
That same joke over and
over
over
again. It's gonna be the same one. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jay Dudley.
Also,
Hey, Dudley.
The narration going, oh yeah, Subaru would lay down, Subaru would keep on getting back up for Amelia no matter what, no matter how many times, I mean, just a little bit.
He just gives that.
And
vibe.
Amelia having that thought process, yeah, he would do this for me.
All I can imagine is Subaru watching these ice soldiers get smashed and just have like trauma over his face. He has the full Vietnam face.
Yeah, he has like a
Fucking-
visceral reaction each time. Like the first one's death was his head getting lopped off. I was like, okay,
Oh my
a bit on point, Tappe. A bit on point.
Also, yeah, as Jay Dudley mentioned, creepy cliffhanger for that chapter.
Yeah, we.
The monolith has hands on it.
One of my
Who let children's hand painting near this?
one of my favorite parts about Arc 6 is some of the crazy lore drops we get and what it means for the future of the story. So even these small little details, keep them all in mind. It's really interesting.
Yeah, keep them all in mind.
6 people. 6 hands. What if it was
Nah,
just
I'm sorry.
like
What if it's just three
3 people?
2 hands.
Yeah, they put both their hands. Yeah.
No, it was just Betelgeuse. He just made a whole bunch of different
Oh,
unseen hands and pushed them into the cement.
Oh man.
Or even
It was
better-
when he was testing his unseen hands. He was like dipping them in paint, and then he had to like test if he could like put that paint on the walls and stuff. Ah,
It's not even.
No, but genuinely, when I first read this, I thought that was like a key that you had to have in order to unlock this was enough
Really?
unseen hands to fill up all the slots. And the Subaru wasn't good enough yet.
it's a skill issue.
Subaru.
It's like a hand
There are
scanner, but
6
only
more
if you
arcs.
have authorities.
There's like 6 more arcs. Subaru needs 5 more hands. Yeah, we can make that happen.
It's all coming together.
And it was after I finished the arc that I went back and realized, oh no, the keys are beneath the tower. That's what those things are. Okay.
Yeah,
never
the keys are
mind.
beneath, and it says specifically men and women's hands.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what the unseen hands are like, though. They could be anything. One of them was big enough that he sat in them while he flew around in it.
True. Do you think that was a man's hand or a woman's hand?
Well, it would be being man-handled, so probably a man's. hand.
Ah, so probably yeah.
Yeah, it's all coming together, eh?
It makes sense now. You've convinced me. Guys, I think Betelgeuse is going to revive, and then he's going to use the unseen hands to unlock this monolith.
Not me thinking that a character that is not Betelgeuse was Betelgeuse when I saw light novel art for Arc 9.
Really?
Oh,
Oh,
oh
I
my
know.
god, it's a child
yeah.
Betelgeuse.
It's
Spoiler.
kid Betelgeuse. Oh fuck!
It's so funny too.
Surely this will become a
I
twist
remember,
villain.
I remember you chatting to me about this. You'd be like, "Man, I'm so mad. I got a huge spoiler." I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that." And then we're talking about it. He's like, "I wasn't spoiled."
That was just stupid.
No, especially with what that character is doing at the current moment, it's crazy to be like, "Oh, that's Betelgeuse." No.
I
current
thought it was
chapters
like
disagree.
a young child that would become Betelgeuse.
Yeah,
but I was
you
wrong.
thought it was like a whole flashback arc or something.
Oh, the next
No, I
incarnation.
thought it was a time travel thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Guys, we have to send this character back in time so he can become Betelgeuse to complete the loop.
Yes, that is genuinely what I thought when I saw him on the art.
We cooking,
That's
but
crazy.
maybe we not cooking
That's
right.
crazy. I mean, there's been a lot of things that I have thought as theories and things that I haven't thought of theories going on in Arc 9 where I'm like, man, I'm fucking stupid for not thinking or thinking this, but that one's a new
It's just
ball
how
game.
good of a writer to pay is. He just writes stuff, and then you're like,
Yeah.
that was obvious the whole time. How did I not notice that? But it was
Yeah,
just
like
so-
inserting a particular twist like 6 chapters ago, I was like, oh, I'm a fucking moron. Like that was so, like that makes so much sense. God damn it.
Yeah, but then we get hit with the twist that was a few chapters ago. We're like, really? Fucking really? Okay.
Oh, is it the one where
Ugh.
it's like, oh, come on. Like, I thought I was getting all worked up and shit with each chapter for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I know exactly which one you're talking about. It was like, oh, but oh.
Yep. 100%.
Well, without further ado, we should probably continue.
Yeah.
I have a
Without
chapter to
lamp
narrate,
shading.
and we have
Get a
very
lozenge.
big- Yeah.
Get a lozenge, Al. You're gonna need it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Let's see here. Get the mic a bit closer. There we go. We all ready?
Hi.
I'm
What
ready
are
to
you
get
ready
a
for?
Puerto
You're not even in this, are you?
Yes, I am. I told you, I'm
I'm
Anastasia.
ready.
Quote,
Oh,
unquote,
right, she's here.
Anastasia.
She is.
Yeah,
She's here.
I was like, Anastasia, Finn is not here, but like Anastasia is, so you know, if you see it that way, it's like, oh, you're here.
Echidna is here.
Finest of nights, my ass. Can't even recognize.
Ooh.
Okay, are we now ready?
No.
Yes.
Okay.
Indeedy.
Hi.
Arc 6, Chapter 85. Good Loser. The finest of knights, to name himself so, entailed courage, He indeed took pride in being called so, extolled so, by others. However, never had there been even a single instance wherein he had labelled himself as the utmost, or fine. He possessed conceit for having stockpiled unsparing hard work, for having diligently devoted himself to learning every day. However, in his incompetent and inexperienced history, he was naught but surrounded by unending excelling pioneers, comrades commanding respect, and juniors worthy of admiration. Though vexing, he considered that to be bliss. Being acknowledged by someone ought to be reward for strenuous efforts and diligence. Much less, in the endeavour to be acknowledged by everyone, the strenuous efforts and diligence must be of such devotion that they would be regarded as extraordinary, that everybody would be amazed by solely those. Had he truly worked hard enough to be worthy of that? He possessed conceit for having stockpiled unsparing hard work, for having diligently devoted himself to learning every day with absolute certainty. However, had he transcended his boundaries? Had he polished and refined himself every day until he had exhausted all of his strength? Inspired by the strenuous efforts of others, had he pledged further hard work to his ideals? He would answer his question by himself. Julius Jaculius had indeed accomplished that, transcending boundaries, polishing and refining himself until he exhausted all of his strength. With inspiration from the strenuous efforts of others, he pledged further hard work to his ideals. Hence, before the existence who stood as the pinnacle of the sword, he held his head high with confidence.
I am the finest of knights, Julius Jaculius, the sword of the kingdom that shall slash you down.
Grasping the hem of his mantle, Julius bowed, and ahead of him, the Sword Saint stood in silence. He closed his other eye, the one eye not concealed by the eye patch, and did not look at Julius, but silently bracing his bulky, burly arms, he pondered about something. However, his pondering did not last for long. By simply their short fellowship until now, it was clear that he was the one to possess the disposition of being utmost unsuited to ponderation. Thus,
Fucking hell!
with an intense scratch of his head, the Sword Saint Reed repotently stomped the floor once. Upon that singular blow, the white floor of the second floor quaked, as if fissuring, though Echidna, who was watching over the confrontation of the two, drew her body back. Julius stood, firm, unwavering. Witnessing that, Reed clicked his tongue with a
Appearances, yeah, appearances. You really be just speaking shit like my follower. What an insufferable bastard you are, you prick.
Though unfortunately I am not acquainted with him, I must offer my sympathies to the man whom you say is your follower.
Who the hell said my follower's a dude? Taking bastards around ain't gonna be amusing in the first place. The follower I'm talking about's a woman. She got a fine face, but damn, her reasoning's annoying.
A woman? Then what is the similitude between myself and her of which you speak?
Don't you make me say it again and again.
As wrinkles appeared on his snout, Reed expressed a ferocious smile, akin to a shark, and, unfastening the locked folded arms of his, and knocking his cheeks with his hands.
Stanch your reasoning and having a good face.
Huh?
Oh, so you won't even get annoyed. Damn uncute. Well, it's right.
Snorting his nose in response to Julius's destitute reaction, Reed magnificently crackled the bones of his neck. Afterwards, through his blue eye, he observed Julius. No, not merely Julius, but his environs too. The quivering, fleeting light seemingly encircling Julius, their brilliance had strengthened compared to what it had been earlier. Above all, this would be his first time making these girls debut in this way before Reed.
My buds. No, my lovely maidens. Do you perhaps have anything to object regarding them?
Nothing. Nice women ain't of any regard to their race. Unfortunately, I ain't interested in women that I can't sleep with. You prick. You'd have grown stronger had you broken out of your shell, you know?
If you say so, then a path like that certainly may have existed.
Something like offering advice to Junius was fickleness unimaginable, considering Reed's personality. For him to have done so was certainly due to Reed's own moodiness and him deeming Julius's desperate form, who naught but clung to sword, to be a waste.
Hold on, guys. Sorry, you're echoing through, the second mic.
Okay. I'll restart from the beginning from there. Something like offering advice to juniors was fickleness, unimaginable considering Reed's personality. For him to have done so was certainly due to Reed's own moodiness and him deeming Julius's desperate form, who naught but clung to sword, to be a waste. If you're going to cling to the sword anyways, then take a stance paying no heed to appearances. That had been the attitude and resolve he had sought for Julius, and that too had been a realizable path. However,
I decided to walk this path. Or possibly, instead barring what is my true self, as you say, may make me stronger.
Julius was aware that, should he himself not be plenty conscious of it, he would naturally become that way. In a moment of an instant, in a narrow exchange of blows, should a solitary bit of his skin make the distinction between life and death, the face of the true Julius would reveal itself. However, that spoke of a scenario wherein he would not be powerfully conscious of it. No longer would he waver.
Hereby I declare, I shall think of myself as a knight thoroughly. Furthermore, instead of the path you tried to guide me to, I shall become myself who excels in all fronts.
The hell kind of reason makes it say you're gonna be doing that, you prick?
It is obvious. The knight I lay my trust in is the personification of ideals. He is noble, just, and stronger than any other. Then it is inevitable that I, who name myself as a knight, must be that way as well.
Ludicrous reasoning, per his own words, an illogical line of arguments and claims, a high-handed arbitrariness worthy of being a natural subject of ridicule. However, upon hearing that, Reed did not perform an overt expression of his rage. He simply displayed his sharp fangs and laughed, directing no disgust or disdain whatsoever, and...
Gonna make you cry.
Saying so, Reed tossed aside the chopstick he held, and before Julius, gazing in wonder, took a great leap towards the rear. Subsequently, he steadily extended his hand towards the side. With what his huge palm was gripping to was the stipulated sword, planted into the white layer. Originally, Reed Estrella was supposed to have merely lent his existence as the examiner of the watchtower. For whatever reason, he detached the arrangement of the tower through intense self-consciousness, and finally, by overwriting the flesh body of the raiding Sin Archbishop of Gluttony, had managed to fulfill a pseudo-resurrection. In this condition, in this position, whereby he did not need to abide by the tower's examination. Only then did Reed draw out the stipulated sword for the first time, abiding by his original role, namely,
Gain his forgiveness by the hand of the fool who has reached the heavenly sword.
That's my line, you know. Well, no, I totally forgot about it.
I thought so. Thus I stated it in your stead. I challenge you.
Like hell, I'd give you forgiveness, you dunce. I'm gonna make you cry ugly.
before Julius, who had his knight's sword braced in his front, Reed crudely pointed the sword he had drawn out. No intervals whatsoever. Assuming a relaxed stance, having reached the extremes, the ultimate swordsman, the pinnacle of all who wielded the sword, the sword saint, Reed Estrella.
And now,
However you'd like.
ready yourself!
Placing faith in the chivalry shaping himself, Julius Jaculius tackled the sword saint with the entirety of his might. Both his body and heart felt light. In a non-figurative sense, that was the might of enhancement enveloping Julius as he swung the knight's sword. Needless to say, stability of mind had an immense influence in battle. Upon consideration, to state Julius had been in unstable condition ever since he had arrived at this Pleiades watchtower? No. Ever since he had gotten his own name plundered in the Watergate city, would be unerring. Of course, Julius admonished and restrained his own self as much as possible, forbidding it from showing on his face. Self-control anyone would appraise as akin to the rationality of steel. However, it was not something that had been praised. Furthermore, forbidding the inferior form of his self from showing on his face, the consequence of having deceived his comrades, and even his own self, had led to the unsightly defeat of successive, consecutive losses ever since their arrival at this tower. Julius ought to have placed his trust in others to begin with. Losing his presence of mind due to the impact of having his own existence forgotten, whilst merely pitying himself, who had been displaced from the worlds of others. He had failed to notice what he should have placed faith in the utmost were the people whom Julius cherished, whom he trusted in, whom he had pledged his loyalty to, whom he had entrusted his back to. Humans who would simply disregard Julius Jaculius, who had been displaced from their world without their notice. Absolutely not! He could assert so. Hence, what Julius ought to have done had been simply one thing. Appealing with sincerity, he should have indicated his affection by his volition. The way he had done so with his buds.
I should have retied the severed bonds. One who is nobody can become anybody. For nobody but I myself is living witness to that.
The child of a commoner, who was a nobody, had become even the most attractive, the coolest knight in this world. Julius, who had become nobody, was supposed to have become somebody once again. And
No matter how many chances should I be given, I will surely still be charmed by the seemingly blazing young man that day. Perceive ideals in the back of one who stood for the night, and challenge you, the pinnacle of the sword. After all,
Blabbering about shit, damn cheeky of you prick!
upon Julius's decapitating slash, who had his determination set on the tip of his sword, Reed bellowed, whilst matching in with the same sword strikes. As the entirety of his body lay subject to those sword moves and sword might, Julius straightened his yellow-hued eyes and felt wonder. Restarts included, this would be the fourth time he was battling Reed in this manner. The first challenge and the immediately subsequent defeat This time, with moreover the confinement of the narrowed watchtower's entirety, and having successfully contracted with his buds anew, was the 4th time. Within all of this, Reed using a weapon aside from chopsticks? Though, referring to chopsticks as a weapon had exceeding room for doubt. Anyhow, him swinging something aside from chopsticks, this would be the first. And in these moments, with the pinnacle of the sword saint having wholly gripped the sword, he fought.
The power of your sword has not changed compared to the time you were using chopsticks.
Like I said, damn it, the reason I'm strong ain't because I swing the sword. The only reason I'm strong is just because I'm strong.
Defending against the sword strikes being casually swung down overhead. Once his knees creaked, a pursuit aimed for him from directly below. Narrowly tiding over the attack he had borne witness to for the first time, Julius flew towards the rear upon the impact. Reed trailed after that, not by breaking into a pursuit, but by simply taking a few long steps. Though one would grow to suspect his peculiar gait, there was nothing special about it. By merely stepping forth upon the thought of catching up with an opponent who had drawn back, readily inventing and realizing a new form of gait, unlike any of it previously existing schools, was simply Reed's ability. Just as Reed himself had averred it, that was simply a matter of his norm transcending existence.
Do you want to cry now?
No. The feeling of challenging a legend is livening up my chest.
Rather than with a bravado, Julius responded with truthfulness whilst being impelled. Indeed, that was true. The one before his eyes was Reed Estrella. Simply how many times had Julius's heart throbbed for him, his eyes twinkled for him? How many times had he admired him, yearned for him, due to his legend? Meeting that person in reality, though he had been precisely astonished by his personality, his strength had been the very ideals he had admired and yearned for. Henceforth, simply how wasteful had his self been in what he had engaged in. All whilst possessing the opportunity to exchange words, exchange swords, exchange beliefs and conviction with him.
Huh.
Whilst crossing swords with the genuine article, Julius exhaled upon the arrival of an unforeseen thought. Exceedingly out of place. However, the anticipation made his heart throb. Truly delightful and piquant.
The hell are you smiling about?
Nothing. A thought simply dawned on me. Once I fulfill my objective here and return to the service of my master, then I shall challenge my friend, Reinhard.
Upon Reed's inquiry, Julius pronounced his idea. Never, even once, had Julius competed against Reinhard in swordsmanship, until the present. On the contrary, before it was determined that they would be in different camps in the royal selection, the idea of vying with each other over anything at all had never occurred to him. He regretted never having attempted to gain an equal standing. That, too, had been one of the reasons why Julius served Anastasia and took part in the royal selection. However, even had he not possessed those sentiments, Julius would have still been enchanted by Anastasia's immense talent, would have wished to see the same dreams as her, would have stood at the same place as her. Thus, from the very beginning, never had he been in need of dull excuses or roundabout stances. From the very beginning, he simply should have taken 2 wooden swords and headed over to Reinhard. Once in the past, Reinhard and the strongest swordsman of the Valachian Empire had crossed swords. That day, when everyone in the parade ground had been possessed with wild enthusiasm towards the atmosphere of the sword, Julius too felt warmth in his chest. For that had been the answer.
That's a name I never heard of. Who the hell's this nobody?
He is your descendant, and along with being the present sword saint, he is my friend.
Ha! The kid of my kid just an outsider by that point, goddamn. I ain't gonna notice him even if I see him out by some roadside.
Intertwining sword moves and kicking moves, Reed elucidated his lack of connection while snorting his nose. Finding faint refutation in that dissertation, Julius attempted to open his mouth whilst exchanging swords.
I'm starting to get up talking I'm starting to get fed up of talking about outsiders. You prick, you want to have a damn chat with me?
Though I will not deny that, I shall deny. If only there were time, I would have liked to have exchanged words with you. Let it be for 2 days or 3. However, at present, the time for that purpose, regrettably, does not exist. Telling me to make haste, my back is being pushed. Thus,
With distance opened in between, Reed lifted his cheeks whilst viewing Julius. In Reed's blue eye, with Julius's form augmenting its luminosity, the swirling, 6-coloured lights intermingled, gently commencing to paint an aurora, a rainbow, and
Alclauseria!
the radiance of the emitted rainbow swept the white world as it headed towards Reed. Julius himself widened his eyes as well upon the emitted aurora's span and might. A magic of already extraordinary scope, transformed into the maximum of spiritual arts, it being treated the same as before, now inviting discourtesy. But no, he shall not refer to those girls who had verbatim made their occluded gift and talent bloom as buds. Those girls who had achieved growth capable of being perceived as sublime, with beauty, with charm, with heroism, with dignity, vividly, were not buds, but maidens. To monopolize those girls entirely to himself, as all 6 of them exhibited their respective glamour, may have made him a sinner greater than the Sin Archbishops. However,
Even if you all forgot me, I love you all.
as though to catch up with the emitted aurora, Julius stepped forth. The radiance of the rainbow, clad in 6 elements, broke through all shields and shattered the target. Hence, before the rainbow-coloured light, the options left for the opponent were merely 2: to take up the gauntlet, or to evade. And, in accordance with his personality, Reed Estrella would not dodge the radiance of rainbow. Responding to the radiance of rainbow, surging forward in front, Reed raised his burly arms and slashed down the sharp edge of the ordained sword he was gripping to. With no reliance on special magic or divine protections, a sword move, named as pure violence. With a soul swing, it expunged the maximal magic Julius had fired with all his might. However, that too had been factored in by Julius as he paced ahead. Vaulting ahead from behind the expunged aurora, Julius borrowed the strength of his sword, and his maidens.
Ia! Oro!
Upon that instant, the red and green spirits responded to the call and unified their strength. The wind formed a whirlpool around the blazing flame, generating a tornado of incendence at Reed's feet. Sensing the coil of the heat wave underneath, Reed nimbly escaped upwards before he was scorched. However, the linkage of the spirit knight, of the finest of knights, commenced from here on.
Kua! Eek!
The yellow spirit yielded a pertrance on the clear floor, propelling Julius's frame further upward. Simultaneously, the glow of the blue spirit glaciated the moisture in the air, hindering Reed's ascent, who had jumped upwards. Clicking his tongue, Reed inverted his stance through an evidently beyond human deed of stomping the air, and stationed his legs onto the ceiling of ice generated mid-air, scowling at Julius whilst upside down. Firm strength poured into Reed's arm, and an interception aimed for the ascending Julius.
Een! Ness!
In the juncture wherein the Sword Saints' counterattack drew near him, the white and black spirits intermeddled with the world with their respective powers. The white light bestowed strength upon the entirety of Julius's build. The black light weakened the might of Julius's enemy, however meagerly. The paltry differentiation born in those moments, with a central force in the outcome that followed immediately. With the ice ceiling turned cold, shattering to fragments, Reed hurled from form, blurred due to his velocity. The artless stance of the ordained sword launched a sort of ultimate move, its verticality, horizontally depth, all unreadable. Sensing it not as a menace, Julius held his chest steady and confronted it. The withstanding truth was that, upon the crossings of a sword slash and a sword slash, the stronger side would repel the other. Thus, Julius opened his eyes. The eyes which had continually, perpetually watched which proceeded upwards, proceeded forwards. Killing the very concept of sound and light, Reed's flash cleaved space. He would affirm, should it be the stipulated sword or the chopsticks, regardless, come what may, in that flash's path, it would be slashed down. For that was the very manifestation of the notion of the sword. The sword which was brought forth for the purpose of slashing objects down. And sword moves was the term denoting the techniques for slashing objects down with that sword. Henceforth, the flash which slashed down all objects in the world was the culmination and the long-cherished original desire of the sword and of the sword moves. Those slashed by it would not forget the truth of having been slashed down for eternity. Thus, the scar Julius Jaculius sustained beneath his left eye shall not fade away for eternity. That was the indemnification for having dodged the Saunsade's flash from a distance near enough to graze past. Renouncing his blocking stance, he perceived through the opponent's sword with momentary offense and defense. The slashed fundus of his eye spouted blood. However, he would not close his eyes. Maintaining his focus on the opponent, he swung his arm. Having renounced parrying it, he rained 100 flashes in offense.
Al Chlorista!
The greatest ever sword strike of Julius Jaculius painted the colours of a rainbow. It captured the smile of Reed Estrella, ferocious like that of a shark. The eye patch concealing the left eye of the sword saint was pierced by the knight's strike and swayed into the air. The instant he descended upon the clear floor with his toes, he sent the echo of footsteps to be frightfully blaring. The moment he had become conscious of that, Julius's heart, in the depths of his chest, having forgotten to beat, commenced movement in panic. Subsequently turning towards the rear, he gazed at the burly spine facing towards him. His long, red hair jolting, the back stood firm and still. The great man gripped to the sword of selection in his right hand, and his left hand was positioned at his face. The spot which the left hand was touching was originally supposed to have an eye patch present, but currently it was absent. The eye patch that concealed the left eye of the sword saint at present had fallen at Julius's feet.
So, it connected, huh?
His voice quivered as he looked down upon the eye patch, fallen on the clear floor, and the knight's sword in his own hand, though his whisper sought to affirm the occurred happenings. It possessed an excessive lack of connection to reality. To him, this seemed as though a transient dream, that this all would slip away and vanish through his fingers. However, no, through not the notion of words, the 6 lights extolled Julius's established achievements. The warm flowers, named his beloved, sought to fill the void born in Julius's heart, and, accompanying the commend of his blooming maidens,
Julius.
Hearing the soft voice, Julius turned his gaze towards its direction. The great man, with his spine turned towards him, the maidens transmitting their commendations, and, overlooking the battle from a locus disparate from either of them, having called to Julius, was a female with light purple hair, with a face identical to that of his cherished master, who he had dedicated his sword to, the artificial spirit who would live on to eternity, with whom he had a relationship of unknowingly, mutually wounding each other. Whether the reason for her solitude or the solicitude for Julius was because she cherished Anastasia, or due to the functioning of his divine protection of gathering spirits, the answer remained veiled. However, the being of someone who watched over the resolution of Julius Jaculius eased his heart to such an extent, he thus hauled up his knight's sword in gratitude. Wordlessly, he hoisted his knight's sword up to the heavens. Remnants embellished with the aurora glistened. The path of the sword verbatim delineated a rainbow. That was surely akin to blessings showered upon the knight named Julius Jaculius.
Hadn't this been the shitty bloody examination, this would have made for your victory.
Articulating so, the great man languidly stopped his Zori on the floor in a tangent. Once he turned around, no wound lay visible on Reed's face, with the tip of Julius's sword, where had reached, had evidently been merely his eye patch. However, neither was even Reed shameless enough to exaggerate, and to say it did not reach him. Above all, his prior remark had not been his unwillingness to admit defeat, but the truth. Had this indeed been the continuance of the examination of the second floor, Electra, of the Pleiades watchtower, at the point of having a single blow connect successfully, Julius would have passed it and gained the right to challenge the upper stratum. However, the battle between Julius and Reed was no longer a question of the tower's examinations. They were battling in order to settle things between a soul knight and a soul swordsman, between a man and a man. Having lost his eye patch, Reed, with both of his eyes open, gripped the stipulated sword with both of his hands. Clutching the sword's grip, he took a stance with the sword, aimed at the other's eyes. Indeed, the sword saint took a stance. Took a stance not for artlessly swinging sticks, but in order to slash the enemy down with certainty.
Don't be complaining even if you vanish to nothing.
Even if I were to wish to complain, it would be difficult to find a way to do so when I would possess no mouth to complain with.
This rascal ain't even gonna laugh at jokes, goddamn. You prick, what's your name again?
Julius lifted his eyebrows upon being inquired for his name by the legend. Though he had assuredly named himself on countless instances before by now, he did not possess recollection of that. However, him not having recollection of that was now insignificant, for he apprehended with that question, Reed had indisputably, for the first time, acknowledged Julius.
Julius Jaculius. Since it is a name easy to forget, I request of you to remember it.
Pronouncing a redundant remark he would not have perceived as humour simply a short duration ago, Julius pointed the tip of his knight's sword towards Reed as well. And once again, he implored for the aid of the six spirits who had naught but laboured for him right before. Should it be his present self and these girls, then he would surely reach the further heights of the rainbow's aurora. Alclorazea and Alclarista, pouring the might of the six spirits. The rainbow's aurora, furling the power of the six elements. Clorazea, which fired that maximal magic, and Clarista, which made it dwell upon the knight's sword. And beyond that, there was a secret ritual in which he had not once succeeded in due to his inexperience.
Hereby, I vanquish.
Come.
In that juncture, an aurora submerged the white space. The bands of rainbow tackled the great man of crimson. The original rainbow spiritual arts devised by Julius Jaculius. A secret amongst its secrets. Neither launching the light of a rainbow, furling the 6 elements, nor making it dwell upon the sword, but cladding oneself in it and exterminating the opponent by becoming the aurora itself.
Al Clonveir.
That superlative strike of the Spirit Knight was directly assailed upon by a clear white flash. From the very beginning until the very end, the transcendent dimension of offense and defense far surpassed the ability of an untrained eye to keep pace with. Needless to speak of the colliding sword strikes, but the bewildering interchange of positions and footwork, which side was dominating and which side lay inferior, even that alone could not let the pale cerulean eyes capture. That had been nothing to do with his flesh body, nor being her original belonging. Merely, there present were those who were vying for a matter of life and death within that dimension. And compared to them, the world she lived in simply was an exceedingly lesser dimension. That being withstanding truth. If the sense of worth and values of living beings reposed in their might as living creatures, then herself was frail, akin to worthlessness. Moreover, that was also the evidence of herself having lived for a time equating multiple centuries in indolence, with her back turned towards the path of enhancing, uplifting oneself. Ever since she had first become self-cognizant, she'd had a hunch that the purpose of the unnatural existence named herself had been fulfilled the very moment she had been born. In blunt terms, if taking birth itself had been her purpose had been fulfilled at that point of occurrence. Henceforth, left as is, she had purposelessly wandered the world, unable to evade the void of multiple centuries. She did not mind even if she died. However, she merely possessed no reason to die, thus delaying her demise in inactivity for much too long. She had indulged in sloth, and during her course of prolongation, she had happened upon the young girl. Enchanted by the way of the young girl, leading a vivid way of life, her glaciated life, a tamed warmth, the young girl, who possessed a diminutive frame and spoke implausibly big talk. Whom would she turn out to be? Would she be unable to become anyone whatsoever? She yearned to bear witness to that with her own eyes. And before one could take notice, such intrigue and interest of hers became insignificant.
I do not want to lose you or the children you cherish.
She was aware that what was termed as flowing time was kind, yet cruel. Though time healed wounds, it also rendered emotions obsolete. Having lived for a long, lasting period of time, she mused that she did not want to forfeit this to the past.
Though that, too, is an impossible wish.
Even if she implored for it to stop, time ever send, or without halt. Lives, bound to possess minuscule and feeble lifetimes, displayed all kinds of changes within their time. Just as the nameless knight, who had his name plundered, who'd remain in the memories of no one, had proved that he was a singular human named Julius Jaculius. The knight, clad in the radiance of the rainbow, plunged directly into the white light. against Julius, who had gambled and unveiled the secret ritual. Reed Estrella's actions were terribly simple. To swing down the sword he had swung up, a deed of sword strikes likely repeated the most in this world. It obliquely bisected the world, becoming a light which wrecked all in its path to ruin. Neither a special magic, nor a special move. With a mere swing of the sword, the world was scorched by light. Impossible to understand. Did Reed Estrella exceed norms? Or were all sword saints alike? Though, what was certain was
Julius.
that she had wished to devote her strength so that the Aurora would not be overwhelmed by the absurd white light. That was indubitably her genuine motive. However, an act like directly interfering into that battle before even being suicidal would be uncouth. That sin would not bequeath her even the right to complain, should even her soul be shattered in repentance. And the young girl, Echidna, was aware that she could not do anything. In this place, if there was anything she could do for Julius Jaculius, who had transformed into the Aurora, that would be... Her hand on her slim chest. She sensed the existence slumbering in its depths. In search of the reason why the original possessor of this flesh body would not awaken from her deep slumber, Echidna had arrived at the Tower of the Sand Sea. However, that had been deceit. Echidna was already aware of the reason as to why she would not wake up. The girl, who declaimed her greed, who boasted her desire to attain all kinds of everything, never letting go of what she had once put in purse, come what may, since she utmost loathed having to let go, having to part ways with anything. There was only one sole reason, which she could reckon.
Having ceded the body over to me, and temporarily lying dormant in your ode, you are in a state wherein you will not receive any interference from the outside world, because the ode is a world of a certain kind of peculiarity.
And, by her own volition, she had secluded herself away in that place. The reason being obvious. Should she come outside, she would incur the effects. The abhorrent authority of the Sin Archbishop of Gluttony. She would incur its effects. She would forget what she wished to never forget. Relinquish what she wished to never relinquish. Anastasia Hoshin would forget Julius Jaculius. So was her purpose. However,
It seems everybody who came to this tower are all staunch boneheads. All of them appear to be lacking charm to the point of dying while dwelling over losing something.
in this duration of nearly 2 months, she had attempted to imitate her way by herself, but now was the right time. Besides, since she had observed his positives and negatives, his flurrying self as a nameless knight from close vicinity, even if that girl was to forget, she could apprise her.
Is that so?
Wielding no purpose, the artificial spirit, who had fulfilled its duty upon the point of taking birth. Though she had adjudged herself to possess solely that unpleasant duty, contrary to expectations, that was not where it came to an end. The young girl she cherished, the knight she cherished, and acting as the intermediating bridge between the chipped two, was that onus not a task of vital significance? Was that not of such vital significance that she could smile, musing that this had been the purpose of her birth? Thus,
Not even seeing your knight be at his coolest is a deed so wasteful. It is not unbecoming of your miserly self.
the white light hunted the Aurora down, as though to paint it out. Furthermore, he pressed with the entirety of his soul, and having borrowed the might of the six spirits he had reforged his contract with, he had gambled upon and unveiled a secret among secrets, whilst the opponent had merely swung the sword. Earnestly, solemnly. Indeed, he was utterly astounded by that absurd exceeding of norms. Simultaneously, since he also possessed the emotions enunciating this, was now things must be overflowing within his chest. He found his own self to be irredeemable as well. With a swing of the sword, the world fissured. That was the special move of the Sword Saint which transpired when Reinhard swung the sword as well. Suddenly, in the midst of a rivalry between a life and a life, Julius contemplated. Reinhard and Reed, should they battle each other? Just who would prevail as more powerful? Legend and legend, Sword Saint and Sword Saint, in the unattainable battle. Who would be declared victorious? Unfortunately, the opportunity to make certain of that would not pay a call.
Then I have no choice but to confirm it with this body of mine.
The opportunity to exchange swords with Reinhard van Estrella, with all Reed Estrella, befell only upon ones who reached this tower. Moreover, the possibility existed solely for Julius and the young girl named Amelia, who had headed towards the upper stratum. He bore no intention to concede that duty to anyone else. Thus, what remained for him was to simply triumph, to jostle this white light and slay Reed Estrella with the radiance of rainbow. For that purpose, the entirety of his soul and his fighting strength requiring a single step further. Should a scintilla of pride and might dwell within the tip of the sword of the finest knights?
Julius.
A call, improbable to reach, within impact rendering the passage of time indistinct. However, the time necessary for each convergence of swords was less than a fraction of a second. This was the offense and defense of this momentary world. In that space, much less in the midst of a battle being fought at the risk of life and death, nobody's voice could possibly reach. However, the voice had certainly struck Julius. Perhaps not his eardrums, but it instead had reached something far deeper within, the innermost depths of his chest. Given he had resolved in his heart to wear the shell named Knight, he must respond to it without fail. That was why, hearing the voice he could not have possibly heard, Julius turned towards the one who could not possibly have viewed, and exchanged gazes with those pale, cerulean eyes. The luminescence dwelling in those large, spherical eyes had distinctly changed from what it had been just before.
Go get him, my knight.
In that singular sentence dwelled the one final push of sword strength he required.
Ia, Kua, Aro, Ik, In, Ness!
Requesting for one final push, he called the spirits with whom he had become a part of the Aurora with, in order to surmount the white light, beyond which present was the form of the enemy he ought to defeat, directly before him, in order to make the tip of the sword reach beyond the white light. Opening his mouth to an extent unbefitting of him, he raised his voice to the extent of vomiting blood, with an expression possessing the preparedness to die, discarding elegance into the wind, merely ensuring the bones supporting his self did not fracture. With his paramount dedication towards it, Julius stepped forth, and, taking the rainbow's aurora, intensifying its brilliance head-on, the counter of white light too escalated its vigor. Furthermore, strengthening their might, the radiance of rainbow and the white light collided vehemently.
Ah.
That which seemed as though it would subsist for eternity was met by an unforeseen fall of curtains.
Oh,
Dumbfounded, Julius noticed the feeble voice spill from his throat. The mutual clash of their maximal powers had an abrupt curtain call. However, without halting its vigor, his sword, embellished with the aurora, had directly stabbed through the opponent's vitals.
why?
Ah, shit, this isn't a boring ending.
Julius plunged into turmoil, being the one to be blamed for the stab. Whilst, on the other hand, Reed, who had been stabbed, remained calm. Heedless of the stab in his chest, he did not even express a frown. Was that the deed of his tenacious force of will? And if not so, was the anomaly which had transpired on the flesh body of that great man the cause? Disparate from the penetration of Julius's sword, a wound, no, a crevice had been yielded in the chest of Reed Estrella. And that was not confined to merely his chest. His arms and legs, neck and cheeks, throughout profuse sections of his body, stretched wounds akin to cracked glass. Intuitively, Julius comprehended what it was. The distortion that was originally inconceivable was being corrected. This was a phenomenon of that mechanism.
Ultimately, that's what it'll be. The human in me ain't fitting in any other vessel other than myself.
Whilst gazing at the palm of his fissuring self, the insight Reed grumbled was correct. Captured due to the authority of gluttony, in the form of pillaging the right of control over that flesh body, Reed Estrella had acquired substance. However, the truth that until the bitter end, this body belonged to the Sin Archbishop of Gluttony, Roy Alfard, who had become the foundation, would not change. In other words, the receptacle, named Roy Alfard, had been unable to endure the workings of the norm-exceeding soul, named Reed Estrella. Its failure had materialized in the final phase of the battle against Julius.
Then I'd much rather if you might as well.
Well, if I didn't get eaten by this guy, I may have gone out until the end. In that case, it'd have ended the point at the point you felled the eye patch after all, you know? Everything ain't gonna go the way you weak folks want. Do you want to cry now?
Tossing the ordained sword aside, Reed mean-spiritedly laughed whilst revealing his teeth. How could he laugh that way? As is, his disappearance was now a future set in stone. Had he defeated Julius instead, it was perhaps possible that he would have been able to once again walk his life, which had terminated once. Even though he had let that possibility slip through his hands.
Are you stupid, you brick? Something like living once again, who the hell's gonna do something that troublesome? First of all, the hell's gonna happen if I run into me somewhere, eh?
I'm sorry to say, but you have already passed away due to old age, multiple centuries ago. Even if your present self were to walk around, for your former self, that would be...
Huh? Then are you worshipping the mug of my kid's kid who's like an outsider or something? Oh, bullshit.
Treating his own descendants as outsiders, his recent remarks seemed to be his true sentiments. Apparently, and sincerely, not possessing any interest in a second life, Reed crackled the bones of his neck.
First of all, the hell are you telling me to do after coming to life, gay, you prick? Like, playing around with a smoking hottie you passed by earlier, though the hotties over there is pretty nice too. And there's also that sexy-looking woman.
Oh, so do you truly possess no lingering attachment?
Damn it. Doing what I want to do just when I think I want to do it, it's my style. If work could be much easier for you if you did that.
my gratitude for the advice. However, that would instead be much more of a thorny path for me.
His self had chosen to willingly wear the shell, deceiving himself or acting as though a part of his foundation was something different would also be apt labels. Having realised that choice suited himself, that it aligned with his wishes, even if Julius perceived Reed's extravagance to be dazzling, he would not opt for it. Hearing that response of Julius's, Reed snorted his nose in annoyance. Subsequently, the wound on his chest, the crevices born as a result of transcending the boundaries. With his fingers he touched the solitary wound, differing from those.
You prick, don't you get it wrong, eh? Your sword region was a fluke. Had this been my body, something like you wouldn't even be able to rub snot onto others.
I would not do such a thing in the first place, though.
Ha! Oh, boring.
Spitting out, Reed knocked Julius's shoulder with the hand he had touched his chest with. While stiffening his body upon that impact, Julius took in a deep inhale. He had yet to accept everything, to come to grips with everything. However, he deemed letting those moments go by merely losing his presence of mind upon the occurrences before his eyes and experiencing turmoil to be far more unendurable. The crevices dilated. The end was already visible. Hence, Julius hoisted his own knight's sword he had unsheathed before his visage.
From the bottom of my heart, I revere your ability with the sword.
I ain't needing a bastard's admiration. I take my leave with my victory, Julius.
With his name vocalized in his final pronouncements, Julius gazed in wonder. However, as per the resolve in his heart to not be flustered, he concealed that astonishment behind a smile, and bowed, just as he had confidently named himself before this legendary being as the utmost finest knight, just as the ideals of Julius Jaculius had been moulded to not bring shame to his admiration.
Yes. Until the very end, it is your victory, Reed Estrella.
And that's a damn nice face, you damn dejected loser.
With those words, marking the end, the crevices of Reed Estrella dilated. Unlike their visual impression, the crevices which dilated until the very end were not accompanied by sound. Unlike the shattering of glass, the great man of red hair was exasperated like diminishing light. In his stead, collapsed on the clear floor, was a young boy of petite build, with the whites of his eyes visible. One who ate the memories and names of others, and handled them per his will. The blasphemer of bizarre eating. The Sin Archbishop of Gluttony, Roy Alfard, had collapsed, scuppered. Indistinct whether he was alive or dead, Gluttony remained immobile, with not a single twitch. However, identical to Reed, he merely had the deep gash on the left side of his chest, its fatality incontestable. Ascertaining merely that with his eyes, Julius lowered the knight's sword he had hoisted as a demonstration of honour, sheathing it into the scabbard he wielded, and turned backwards. The aurora had unravelled, and in Julius's environs were 6 spirits with augmented brilliance. Without the strength of these girls, who had bloomed into maidens from buds, the one to be lying on the clear floor this way surely would have been him, rather than the opponent. For that, he must convey his gratitude and appreciation conscientiously. However, with apologies to those girls, He must defer that demonstration of gratitude. Steadily, Julius advanced, ahead in the direction he was headed. Intently watching Julius was a gorgeous, slender, petite female with pale cerulean eyes, undulating, light purple hair, the personish adorned with a white outfit, unfitting for the sand dunes. By her feet was a white fox, with the pupils of its eyes wavering in suspense. The presence of her form, who had always been passing off as a scarf, held significance. Once again, letting himself be aware of that, Julius closed his eyes, and
Pleased to meet you.
the statement he had conveyed to the Saint Saint as a challenger heretofore, he expressed once again. But the sensation deep within his chest in these moments differed from the enhancement preceding battling. However, there also existed something which remained the same. As though the opening of a new page in a tale of adventure, the adventurous heart of a youth, yearning for the night.
I am.
Kneeling at that spot, Julius articulated the first words, to be met with a response by the other person. His stance remaining lowered, Julius awaited the upcoming words. He reckoned he could wait for however long a duration. What felicity this was, to have faith that he should wait. He would assuredly hear her words.
I am Anastasia Hoshin. I want everything in this world. So, great and cool Oni-san, what's your name?
With elegance, she smiled, and he could perceive exactly how she must have tilted her head afterwards. Remaining knelt down, and his face lowered and concealed, Julius took a short inhale, with a ha, and
I am Julius Jaculius, your one and only knight. You may have forgotten. However, I am the one who devoted the sword to you. One who dedicates the entirety of his strength for you and aids your will.
a respectful bow, with the knight's sword placed on the floor, and in addition, Julius at last raised his countenance. Before him, no matter what gaze should his master have, he would not regret. It was unbefitting of a knight to lose presence of mind, to be confounded, face downward. For the very existence, who put up appearances the utmost, and sought to possess a cool and charming air, was whom Julius admired and yearned for. And, looking down upon that Julius, the young girl narrowed her spherical eyes.
Really? I don't remember, though. But... At first glance, I thought that I gotta make this Oni-san mine.
At such proximity, with the blazing, sparkling eyes of his eternally craving master, revealing the intent to not relinquish anything and everything, to the greed seeking to obtain everything, Julius Jaculius devoted his sword once again. A sublime play, like the tale of a master and knight in fiction. The restoration of the plundered master-servant bond was realized in the second floor, Electra. That was the accomplishment of eliminating one of the 5 obstacles set forth by Natsuki Subaru, the great library Pleiades. The second examination was hereby concluded. And that was the chapter!
Yay!
Woo!
Woo!
That was a
Good
doozy.
night.
Woo!
Great
That
work.
was
Great
a
work,
long one.
guys.
Excellent work, all.
Amazing work.
You okay, Al?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I'm-
yeah.
I'm fine. I'm fine. Fuck.
This is,
You don't
payback
have to
for
ever
you
do it
taking away
again.
work.
Yeah, I never have to do another read line. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Yay!
Freedom!
Good
Huzzah!
news, he
I'm announcing my
dead.
retirement.
Look, you're dead now. You get to rest.
Ding dong, Lucy's dead.
His
Good
last
riddance.
fucking words were saying, "Yeah, you're a fucking bitch, bro."
It's so funny and it's so satisfying that it's so in character for Reed to say something like that, and yet it hits so hard because it's him acknowledging Julius.
Yeah, it's like he's saying, "You're a fucking loser," but it's like homies saying you're a fucking loser
Yeah.
instead of
Still
actually just
gotcha,
in the
though.
street
Yeah.
saying you're a loser.
Yeah. Is it you
He
saying,
really?
I should have by all rights won, but you take this one, you fucking bastard.
Like, take your
savage.
victory.
Not
you
me this
fucking
time.
prick.
He really hit Julius with the nuh-uh.
No.
If I had my controller at home, I would have won.
Yeah. Literally. If I
I'm not
had
used
my-
to this
if I had my
one.
Pro
It's-
controller
hold
with
on.
the extra switches on the back, I would have won. Okay. You were just spamming the same.
Is this
thing
a
over and over
fucking
again.
Joy-Con?
No, it's a Mad Cat.
Oh no!
Ah!
So yeah, that's probably one of my favorite chapters, not only in the series but in the arc. I love this chapter so much. It's such a,
Oh yeah.
it's just such a cool way to pay off Julius's character arc in this arc, and throughout the entire story. Honestly, so far, it's like a new stage in his character, and
Yeah,
it's
he's-
just so awesome to see.
And Anastasia
He's kind of our
returns.
first one that's decided I'm not going to look down on myself anymore. I want to see myself as better than I am, and I have to pretend to be that until I become it. And then
He's
I'll be the
finally started to love the self he yearns to be, right?
Mhm.
best. Mm-hmm.
Which is just so it's so good, and it fits so well with just the themes of this arc in general about identity and finding yourself and trying to learn to love yourself. That Julius has this parallel arc to Subaru, but kind of, as Julius does, always is ahead of the matter, you know.
Yup. Always one step ahead of you, bro.
Yeah, literally. I just
Dude, I can't believe the narration was Subaru.
Yeah,
it has
no.
to
Yeah.
be Subaru, man.
It's fitting.
The most
Just
attractive,
made
coolest knight of all.
Yeah, I know. When I heard that line, I was like, "Fuck yeah!" Of course we got
Yeah.
all the Watt patters
It's
be
Yowie.
Watt pattern.
It's Yowie.
I know it's goofy, and I don't even know if Subaru's going to end up having any kids in the future, but the way I'm imagining this chapter is Subaru just, like, sitting down and talking to his kids about his bro, not bro, Julius's great, exploits.
To his child named Julius.
Rigel
Yeah, I was
gives
gonna
him
say
the
he names a
raised
kid
eyebrow,
Julius.
Like, yeah, the most attractive, coolest one, Dad.
Wait, who wrote
Really?
this in here?
Who's responsible for this?
And you just see like a smiley face and Julius Acunius sign next to it.
It was a
His
kid,
little
man.
winky face, a little
It was scarfed on him.
It was
Julius
Scarf
cat face, like
biggest Julius sim. I love
Yeah, her
Oh,
whole
oh, no.
flashback scene of, oh, I get it now. I totally get it now.
Yeah, I see it. I see it. Why did she like this guy so much? I see it.
Thank you so
Yeah, I
much,
see
Jay
it.
Dudley.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we got another 24-page chapter to go.
oh,
yay!
TLD, Connor, Cameron, what the fuck is wrong with
Cameron?
Connor?
exile thyself.
Oh damn!
This latest
Your
secret
evil
in
twin.
Minecraft.
Cameron in common.
Cameron in common.
Lloyd.
Cameron.
Lay. Roy. Common.
This is
Uh,
long
Connor.
for this chapter.
TLD, are you guys good time-wise?
I'm good.
I
I'm
And
fine.
you're good voice-wise for it, Connor?
Yeah, I'm good.
Perfect.
Julius doesn't ever hurt my voice.
Yeah,
That's fair.
It's just like
it's
it's ever
one
so
step
slightly
barely above
elevated.
your-
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair.
It's just my haughty voice.
Well, we've got peak, and we're about to get more peak. So
Woo, woo,
strap
woo.
in, folks
Yay!
at home. Whilst Wolf gets the honor of turning his mic down the full way for this chapter.
Yay!
Kyle's goes and makes lunch.
Yum yum yum.
Good luck. I'll make you some butter chicken.
I'll pick
I'll
up
put
after the
some toast.
chapter.
You're basically in our time zone now.
You get to relax now.
Yay.
All right, we ready, y'all?
Almost. I'm
Mhm.
sending you
Oh.
one thing real quick.
Okie dokie. Oh, do I need? I'll refresh.
But
If it's the boxes, I believe
Yeah.
I know what they are.
Yeah, that's all it was.
Yep. All right. Da da da. Turn to that. Move over. Okay. All right. We ready to roll?
Mhm.
Hell yeah.
All right. Here we go. Arc 6, Chapter 86. Conversing of what yesterday held. Since long before, she had harbored misgivings. Her master, Roswell L. Mathers, to whom she devoted her allegiance, for the purpose of achieving his ultimate goal, found it necessary to kill the dragon who protected the kingdom of Lagunica. She was a vital and indispensable piece for that plan of Roswell's, so had Rom heard from none other than himself in an event that occurred close to 10 years in the past. Having saved Rom and Rum from the village of the Oni clan blazing scarlet, Roswell sought recompense. And, in exchange for retribution for the Oni clan, Rom had decided to pay that compensation. That she would thus cooperate, be it for the plan to kill the dragon or whatever else. But there was merely a singular point to which Rom was unable to find the answer within herself, that being the essential way of killing the dragon. It was not easy. Even if plans were to be meddled around with and measures were to be taken, that was not easy. Should that moment arrive, simply what would Rom be able to do?
You will know when the time comes. Your role, which only you two, elder sister and Ruru, can fulfill.
She felt she had once heard such words, from which a fragment had been chipped off. Curiously, she had never given deep thought as to what that had meant until today, but
It is finally understood what Roswell-sama was aiming for.
all of Roswell's actions were for the purpose of the ultimate goal he had clasped throughout his long lifetime. For that purpose, he had infiltrated himself deep within the kingdom of Lagunica. For that purpose, he had saved Rom and for that purpose, he had kept control of Sanctuary as a litmus test for one's resolve. For that purpose, he had tested Natsuki Subaru. Even if he inevitably had to alter his original scheme, the entirety of the preparation until that point had not been futile. No, he would not let it be rendered futile. That was who he was. Hence, the answer came forth within Rom as well. The reason why Roswell took custody of a pair of young Oni, an elder sister, and a younger sister that had been taken in as a substitute for Rom's lost horn. The elder sister and that were Rom and with the two of them acting as a single Oni, he had taken them in his hand for killing the dragon. Naturally, not even Roswell could escape from the effects of the authority of gluttony. As a matter of consequence, he too must have forgotten why Rom had been taken into his mansion. However, even if he had forgotten, he must have immediately discerned his own self's aim. And, whilst observing Rom and the others make strenuous efforts to recover Rom from the damage caused by gluttony, he did not disclose that truth, honestly.
His scrupulous nature won't change no matter what, will it?
Though his plans had once suffered a setback thanks to Subaru's actions, he had yet resumed his handiwork for fulfilling his goal behind the scenes, while remaining vigilant for a chance to strike. One nasty nature. With Rom not there to watch him, just what would he be doing about now? However, so she thought as well. That, in this journey, by the point of having allowed Rom to accompany Subaru and the others as they tried to save could Roswell have perchance foreseen the possibility of things turning out this way? She was possibly overthinking it. To begin with, the appearance of the Sin Archbishop of Gluttony in Pleiades' watchtower was an unforeseen circumstance, and there was no way he could have possessed confidence in Rom and being placed into a hazardous situation. That could have possibly been excessive misapprehension on Rom's part, an overestimation of the man she dearly loved. However,
It feels far better to believe that the man you loved placed trust in you anyway.
to believe that he had thought that, should Rom be there, and the other members would remain safe and protected. To believe that he had thought that, if need be, Rom would take notice of the supposition Roswell had concealed, bearing faith that she would make use of the trump card for the purpose of killing the dragon by her own volition. That the man named Roswell L. Mathers had acknowledged the 10 years of the woman named Rom. To believe so felt far, far better. That was why.
Right now, Rom truly feels the greatest she ever has. Kindly get beaten down.
The accomplishments established by the Fist King, Neji Rockhart, were somewhat of a legend in Gladiator Island, Gununhive of the sacred Valachian Empire. No, had once been a legend. Having been met by the tragedy of the authority of gluttony, now with both name and memories plundered, no one anywhere who knew of the achievements established by him as a gladiator existed. On the Gladiator Island, wherein strength was used for exhibition, Neji, solitarily, using his empty hands as weapons, had survived hundreds of death matches to finally attain the right of liberation from slavery. Conceiving the refined fighting spirit in his fists, intercepting swords and daggers, before his fists, which shattered steel, any obstacle whatsoever was equivalent to a maiden's soft skin. He likely could have been termed as the one to have beaten the most humans to death in history. With his inordinately brutal, nefarious techniques, the carnivorous beast, Beli Heinelgla, was a rare serial killer who had made the holy kingdom of Gosteko shudder. No, once had made it shudder. Having been met by the tragedy of the authority of gluttony, now with both name and memories plundered, the vast counts of misfortune and precepts he had yielded as a murderer remained not in anyone's memories. By birth, Beli had displayed abnormal growth and acquired strength of physical body impossible to be realized in average human. And, embracing the men of his liking to death, he had piled up copious, atrocious crimes. Superhuman strength which his enormous build materialized, and sturdy skin which sustained not a single scratch from swords and daggers, this murderer, who sought touch and warmth, had been one of the most dreadful, feared criminals, along with the bowel hunter. The career history of the leaper, Dorkel, was an eccentric one. Formerly a merchant living in Kararagi city-states, Dorkel had been a deviant who had disengaged from his path upon hearing the voice of something not human. So he had once been. Having been met by the tragedy of the authority of gluttony, now with both name and memories plundered, the truth of him having become a laughingstock for many as a deviant vanished, with no one who remembered that existing any more. One certain day, Dorkel discarded his life, including his wife and children, and, opting for the path espousing that which did not exist, he became a freak who chose to have contact with the witch cult. Though Dorkel had manifested a paramount power differing from magic, it deviated from the doctrine of the witch cult, a heresy within heresy banished even from the witch cult. In other words, they were transcendental beings, from the kinds of enigmatic persons, eccentric persons, and deranged persons. Impossible to be matched by ordinary humans, they remained unfinished by the mere virtue of being themselves as well. Being blended together with all possible kinds of memories within gluttony, they had been finished in the article greater superlativeness. What would be the consequence should Neji Rockhart obtain Beli Heinelga's endurance and Dorkel's ability of phantom teleportation? It would be the fruition of a singular, brutal, fiendish, atrocious existence, seldom seen throughout time. Until now, and amongst all of what yesterday had held, the Sin Archbishop of Gluttony, Lai Batankaitos had not achieved that. For within the grand hot pot named his self, by blending all probable kinds of memories together, he feared the very existence named himself being taken into the hot pot. However, even if he were to drink up the contents of the mixed hot pot, he would not be taken in. At the very least, that was what Batankaitos' notion had come to be. And, since it had come to be so, he experimented with all he had never ventured to do until now, possessing not the slightest of qualms or hesitance for breaking the established bounds of his own self. For the gourmet, who ate every possible kind of excelling, transcending talent, history, potentiality in this world, utterly, all until the very horizons of gourmet delicacies, persisting and amassing it all within oneself, was precisely whom Lai Batankaitos was. Thus, on this day, what was born in the tower situated at the eastern edge of the world was a warlock agglutinated with every technique and odd talent, regardless of heredity and posterity. The warlock possessed arms which destroyed all, possessed a flesh body which did not take damage from any type of attacks, possessed magical arts which rejected and countered any possible technique, and was endowed with even the wisdom, genius, and intellect to grasp everything that existed. No matter how extensive a survey should be taken of history, never had there been a being who excelled in every single kind of ability to this extent, and neither would any other take birth hereafter, for thousands of years to come. This was a selection of the world's possibility, brought forth by the abominable calamity referred to as a witch factor. Born from the grand hot pot which condensed solely excelling articles, the supreme gourmet delicacy itself.
You shall be given 3 chances.
With that rare existence before her, the young girl with pink-colored hair uttered with 3 fingers raised. The young girl, bleeding from her forehead, with an icy gleam in her light crimson eyes. She was in a condition wherein wounds covered her entire body, and multiple spots of her slim build had sustained tremendous injuries, which would impede in movement. Even aside from those, there existed a mountain's worth of reasons why she should not be able to stand up. He was aware of that. The prime cause not being wounds or blood loss, but that her petite body failed to function as a vessel for accepting the existence named herself. Truly heartrending, he ruminated so.
3 times you shall be allowed to strike first. There is something Rom would like to test. Exceptional, is it not?
However, such deep emotions concerning her not in the slightest. The young girl asserted so whilst 3 of her fingers remained raised, as though to instigate the opposing side. Thrice, a deathly verdict. To begin with, even once would be implausible for her to endure. And neither did he possess any particular reason to disregard that avouch. He did not at all contemplate whether this was a trap either. For the young girl was not one who would meaninglessly proffer such negotiation. He merely thought he must earnestly impart to her that unbridled confidence brought about the destruction of oneself on instances as well. That upon being taken into the same grand hot pot, there shall also be things understood.
Nesama, I'll be going.
Vehemently, making his hind legs amassing strength erupt, he hammered a blow as per her wish. That was a strike crammed with the Fist King's technique and finesse of destructive force, possessing far too excessive might for the destruction of a solitary young girl, and it was absorbed by well-featured visage of the young girl.
Now, the first one.
In the moment he conceived he had captured her certainty, the face of the young girl evaded the fist force from a vicinity seemingly close enough to graze past her peach fuzz, and positioning her hand on his outstretched arm, a knee strike fired by her smashed the right arm at the elbow. An improbable happening, The tenacious flesh body was one that even the slashes of a holy sword could not penetrate into, and yet the arm that had been stretched, and the joint of its elbow, by kneeing into the fixed point that existed solely at this point, had been destroyed by the young girl. However, with the impact of the fractured right arm as is, he fired his left foot up towards the young girl's visage. Though not reprisal for the arm, the strike of his knee aimed for her face as well. The lengthy, slender leg, the fair knee smashed and crushed the young girl's tender snout, ruining her gorgeous visage.
Second.
Upon hearing that utterance vocalized by those slim lips, he doubted his ears. He had executed it such that her mouth would be rendered defunct. However, responding to the knee strike approaching from the side, the young girl moved her hand as though nimbly tracing it, and gently averted its trajectory upward. The loosened knee smoothly passed over the young girl's head, as though it had been loosened to trace the empty skies from the very beginning. And
Third.
with his right arm and left knee strikes dodged, using the impetus of his gyrating body, he fired a rebuff from his left elbow, sharp and solid. Upon making a direct hit, it would crush the young girl's cranium like a berry, and spill its contents out onto the floor of the tower. Indeed, that was what ought to have happened. The effect of elbow rebuff aiming for the young girl's temple was limited to making a few strands of her pink hair flutter, and not more. And the young girl, dodging the elbow as if informed of its arrival, grasped his face once again with her extended hands.
Truly a fool.
And, speaking with a maximum of ruthlessness, she vigorously slammed his cranium. Twisting, turning, winding, meandering, Batankaitos changed his form before her eyes and charged, advancing towards her, and upon knocking him to the ground, Ram pointed 3 fingers towards his face.
One who spars thinking he has 3 chances gets defeated in all 3 of those chances. Should you spar with not even the serious intent to win, you shall be abandoned by even fortune. Thank you. It has been proven. Not even the serendipity of time is now an enemy of Ram.
For Ram, the utmost appalling enemy was absurd fortune itself. However, Ram had exorcised that by her own hand, and had made even that prostrate before herself. No longer was there anything to be fearful. Sprawled on the ground, Batankaitos swung both his legs up, and stood up with the momentum of their downswing, and towards the approaching enemy seeking to hammer his fractured arm. Ram stepped ahead, wielding no vacillation. Blood streamed down from her forehead. However, that ache and sense of loss boiled Ram's blood from the innermost depths. Ah, how truly infuriating it was. This sensation, this enchantment, always had she thought of it as vexatious. The odious Oni instincts, warmly welcoming battle, exalting the brandishing of strength, the craving which boiled blood for the purpose of killing enemies who ought to be killed. Ram had always detested them. That was why, that night, when the horns sprouting from her forehead had been broken off, she had thought she had been liberated.
How truly ironic.
Grousing so, Ram caught the arm being thrusted and threw her opponent over her shoulder with identical momentum. Casting him onto the floor, she kicked his head, propelling him further towards the interior of the aisle. She could not allow him to draw close to her rear, wherein was the grievously wounded ground dragon, along with the young girl leaning on the wall. The young girl who resumed her slumber without change, her horn was fleetingly glimmering on her forehead, asserting its existence. Originally, the young girl who remained asleep, possessing no will of her own, could not have made her horn function, regardless of being a member of the Oni clan. However, even with the actual feeling of that remaining loss, Ram was twin sisters with the young girl. That which was referred to as synesthesia was an ethereal link oft tied between blood-related beings. Having attended to the perpetually slumbering Rem during the past year, Ram too had sensed that existence itself. Not by merely the similitude Not by merely the similitude of outward appearance, but precisely due to the presence of that sensation. Ram had succeeded in objectively accepting the truth of that girl being her younger sister without dissent. However, between herself and Rem, even synesthesia remained futile. Had Rem gotten even a single nightmare, her fright may have gotten transmitted to Ram. However, during this past year, not even once had anything akin gotten transmitted to her. In other words, the perpetually slumbering Rem saw no dreams. Unceasingly, she had simply gazed into the darkness at the back of her eyelids, merely respiring within a desolate, void world. Thus, it was not but a coincidence for her to have noticed this way of abusing said synesthesia here. Though irksome, it was due to Subaru's idea, because he had taken up Ram's burden through an odd power and bestowed upon her the strength to fight. She had conceived an idea accomplishing the same. Those connected together with synesthesia shared mighty sentiments, or even wounds and agony at times. Though she was ignorant of its principle, this hypothesis had been presented within a book in Beatrice's forbidden library, which she had once read in the past. That what was termed as synesthesia operated via the odes of two differing individuals being connected. What was termed as the ode was the source of power existing in the depths of a human being. It could also be synonymous for the soul. Though, on instances, it was also used in place of mana as power for utilizing magic. Originally, the ode was the pure property itself that made a human human. The consequence of having a domain that could not be trespassed by anyone, linking those born of the same womb mutually, perhaps resulted in synesthesia, so propounded theory. In the end, it came to be determined as folklore, and was not something that had been proven. However, since it had been left in the Forbidden Library, it surely was not some phony spiel either. Above all else, Ram personally had taken a liking to that theory. To have one's own self and someone else be connected together by birth was a lovely thing.
A multitude of problems were caused due to that bothersome horn, after all.
The impulse of destruction transmitted by that white horn, Ram loathed it. She had been exasperated by her environs, lionizing her as the reincarnation of the Oni god as well. There existed not a fragment of connection between that obscure, obsolete being and Ram. Ram would not deem value in such an entity. Henceforth, to have one's own self and someone else be connected together by birth, independent of such an entity, was a lovely thing. And if such a connection with someone truly did exist.
Certainly, by birth itself, Ram could not have stopped from loving her.
Even as an infant, she would not pay regard to means for the sake of protecting that bond. For the sake of protecting her, for the sake of admiring her, for the sake of adoring her, for the sake of loving her, she would surely devote her. Thus,
Please do forgive. Your bad Nesama, who is making you shoulder the burden at this time as well.
by way of synesthesia, Ram would share the burden levied upon her own flesh body to her sleeping younger sister. It was in consequence of having experienced Subaru's authority by herself once. Having witnessed something once, Ram could materialize it identically, roughly. What Subaru had done was an identical contrivance. It possibly coercively connected others' ode with his own ode, inducing a fairly arbitrary synesthesia. Subaru's side could possibly consign his burden over if he felt inclined to do so as well, but since Subaru was a fool, he would not do so. Contrarily, by taking it upon himself, he endeavored to abate the burden of his allies.
Truly a fool.
Words she had pronounced towards Baten Kaitos a short time ago. However, despite being the same words, they did not echo the same. What Subaru had achieved through the authority, Rom could reconstruct it with Rem, whom she was connected to through synesthesia. She was oblivious as to what had transpired at Subaru's side. However, this would surely serve to ease him. Rom, too, could abscond from the repulsive situation, namely being connected with long. In lieu, Rom's burden was streaming towards Rem, though Rem, perpetually slumbering, spoke not. Merely gallantly, splendidly, with the white horn she was made to grasp in her overlapping hands. Rom's broken horn that had been fitted inside her wand. With that as a catalyst, she was consigning the mana flowing into her over to Rom. It was unfathomable how prodigious a burden would be laid onto Rem's body for mediating the expansive mana which Rom required. Therefore, this was a decisive battle of brief duration. A roar into time, having been hurled by her kick, Baten Kaitos rebounded towards Rom while smiling. Utilizing the might of the leaper, the magical technique erased the existing distance in between in the span of a blink of an eye. However, even that technique of phantom teleportation was rendered futile should it be viewed in its entirety by the opponent.
You certainly are slow, sluggard. At this rate, Rom will become an old woman.
She purloined the opponent's field of vision with clairvoyance. The opponent's focus, eye movements, the part wherein strength was being poured. By synthesizing, she could read the aim with greater ease than reading the mind. Dodging the perforating palm, she reversely twisted all 5 of its fingers as it through. Pounding a rebuff into his throat, seeking to give rise to a shriek, she slammed the opponent into the wall with a sharp spinning kick.
Although, Rom is cute even when she has grown old.
Whilst pronouncing so, she seized the opponent's nape toward it, dropping him onto the floor by his head yet again. Pelting that face with her heel, she pulverized his snout. Stepping backward and evading both of the arms attempting to grasp her, she pelted him with innumerable blades of wind.
What an ugly shriek, coming from such an adorable face.
His entire body slashed by blades of wind, Baten Kaitos disappeared while spouting blood. As ever, his flesh body unremittingly repeated transfiguration. However, solely what was atop his neck, that which she was acquainted with by sight, did he not attempt to transform. She was close to vomiting, though Rom would not, because that would be inelegant. Whilst shedding immense blood, Baten Kaitos artlessly swooped down upon her. In greater precision, he was surely making free use of miraculous superhuman techniques. Coalescing the might of multifarious transcendental beings, from the outset, he was certainly formulating techniques impossible of being reconstructed by anyone. That excelling blitz, specializing in all possible orientations, was shut down by Rom through outstripping violence. She guillotined those monumental techniques of hundreds, of thousands, using might worth millions. This was what the battle had now come to be. She sought not to even come in contact with Baten Kaitos. Her condition felt well. She had grown accustomed to it in Subaru's absence. She had unfastened approximately 2 more shackles. Probably making up for 50% of her prime. No, since Rom had been very young in those days, aspects of her that had matured were far mightier now compared to Rom back then. And to not wallow in that might was Rom's forte.
The Hornbroken was correct after all.
If it were not for that night, She may have eventually yielded to the horns alone. Though she wanted to proclaim that to be improbable, she could not ascertain if it truly was improbable. Thus, Ram attested to the present being correct and boasted the invigorating nature of the path she had walked. Owing to the loss of her horn, Ram had lived without having to become the Oni she detested.
To begin with, if it were not for that night, Rom could not have met Roswell. So it was not even worth making a comparison.
With no greater conclusion, wielding that as the answer, Ram presented her palm. In front of her palm appeared Baten Kaidos, having leapt through space. His countenance, astonished by having the point of his appearance read through, was gripped tight by her.
You're gonna fly consecutively, isn't it? Rom has grown tired of looking at your magic tricks. And of that face as well.
Wait!
No waiting!
With an icy pronouncement, Ram materialized a blade of wind in the palm which grasped her opponent's face. Within that juncture, his eyes, his nose, his lips, his ears, all possible parts of his face were slashed. Baten Kaidos screeched whilst vomiting blood. And at the same pace, she gouged his face with the blade of wind until it was minced to naught. And from Ram's palm, who sought to accomplish so, Baten Kaidos' form disappeared in but an instant. However, albeit he had escaped, he would not be able to escape from the agony, from the reality. While squalling, Baten Kaidos writhed as he shed profuse blood instead of tears. While observing that, Ram steadily moved her feet forward towards his side. Hearing Ram's approaching footsteps, Baten Kaidos' form changed. The proprietor of a gigantic, burly flesh body. Knocking the imminent fist down, she shattered his knee. Kicked down, Baten Kaidos' figure altered in order to escape from Ram. The giant with a bearded face, curling up as to solidify his defense. Kicking his frame upwards, she nailed him onto the ceiling with a barrage of fists, gradually transforming what was below his skin, which was the subject of boast, into lumps of flesh. In order to kill Ram, who conferred upon him interminable torture, Baten Kaidos' form altered. The bald old man, the magical technique of phantom teleportation, whilst pitying the magical trick whose stratagem had already come to light, she caught him, drove his face into the wall, and sprinted as though to whittle his entire frame. Repressed by Ram's prodigious might, Baten Kaidos' entire frame was sanded, retaining no place to escape to. Winding and meandering, his form transfigured within Ram's grasp as though seeking the optimum solution. Suppressing it altogether, Ram grieved for the hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of victims with all her might. A memorial held via vehemence for those men and women who had been captured by gluttony and had the arts they forged, the paths they walked, the emotions they loved, trampled upon, slighted and disparaged. No longer would arts, paths, emotions be utilized, for naught was efficacious against Ram.
Kindly take your own responsibility by yourself.
Swinging her arm, Ram heaved aside the blasphemer who had his entire frame tempestuously sanded. Falling over the floor of the watchtower, Baten Kaidos shuddered and trembled. Slowly, steadily, gradually, his form proceeded to alter. Having relied on multitudes of memories, his form changed.
Ah, long time no see. Rom wished to meet this face, though this would make for around the third time doing so.
As she wiped off the blood on her forehead and loosened her lips, ahead of Ram's glance was Baten Kaidos. It was Baten Kaidos, in the truest possible purport, not the cunning and wily existence who had, until now, borrowed the faces and techniques of others, but Baten Kaidos, who had returned to his own face and regardless of whom one should become, of whom one should depend on, of whom one should resort to. It was impossible to escape from oneself. Just as even upon losing her horn, the actuality that Ram was an Oni did not change. Just as even upon having her memories plundered, the actuality that Ram was Rem's elder sister did not change.
At the very end, at least, would you like to try resisting using your own strength? By the way, you said something curious on the spiral staircase, didn't you? It seems you have a younger brother or younger sister, isn't it? For the sake of your younger siblings, how about putting your willpower on display?
Collapsed, Baten Kaidos' painful breathing abruptly diminished. He had not lost his life. He had reacted to Ram's remark. Younger brother and younger sister. The moment he heard the echo of those words, Baten Kaidos' breath faintly calmed down. And, steadily, Baten Kaidos' body stood up on the spot.
Little sister, don't!
Don't lay a finger on her, you say? Sorry, but do you think you're in a position where you can make such an insistence? Have you ever lent your ears to someone's plea, even once?
But still!
Distorting his blood-stained, crumpled face, Baten Kaidos pleaded with a tearful. Upon the call of that poignant yet remarkably genuine echo, Ram slightly straightened her eyes. Afterwards, along with a sigh, she closed her eyes.
I'll think.
Miss Summer is far too kind.
Within the juncture, the moment her gaze went astray, Baten Kaidos bequeathed simply those words behind and erased his form. The spatial leap of the leaper, Dorkel, leaving not a single vestige behind, the blasphemer had vanished from her field of vision. He had escaped. Utilizing the odd talent of the leaper, Dorkel, with freedom, Baten Kaidos had fled from Ram's territory. No longer would he consider recklessness like eating Ram. Paying no regard to appearances, he chose flight. Can't win, can't win, can't win against that one. Just as he had thought, that one was a monster. How convenient of her to have bought time and return after becoming more powerful as well. That one was a kind of existence who would not get atop neither the platter of gourmet nor the platter of bizarre eating.
Louis and Roy, really sorry you two, but preliminary preparation of ingredients is crucial in gourmet.
Whilst pressing the injuries of his entire body, Baten Kaidos melancholically laughed upon his younger brother and sister who had been aiming for the same prey. Louis had promptly withdrawn from the war front to safety, and Roy too would be rampaging in a separate site about now. If that Oni were to just aim for those two, he would also be able to withdraw at leisure. Since Roy of Bizarre Eating did not know when to retreat, he would possibly finally die, but it could not be helped. Rather, he had been getting fed up with Roy's bizarre eating. Because that chap laid waste to hunting grounds per his pleasure, there must have been instances where gourmet delicacies supposed to come around to his side had gotten stolen away. No, had what his self feasted upon until now truly been gourmet delicacies?
Each and every single one useless. Shit. Something like that. To think something like that exists, Even though it would have been all good had we not known about it,
That was not a sentiment induced by the feelings of a younger sister doting on her elder sister. That was a sentiment yearning for something inestimable, unfathomable, immense, born from Baten Kaidos' within, in the truest of truest sense, a potent emotion wishing for its desire from the depths of his heart. Want to completely eat that one with all of body and soul. Want to completely savor that one. Champion gourmet, he intended to have eaten all possible emotions and transcending, excelling talents. However, now that he was aware of the presence of a real deal in this world, everything had faded away. All of what the existence named Lai Batankaitos as the Sin Archbishop of Gluttony had trusted as possessing worth and garnered, crumbled to ruin and transform rubbish. Those lavish dinner tables, which had been visible with such glisten, had been reduced to sand pits with mud dumplings atop.
Want that one.
Want it, 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 want it. If for the sake of eating that one, throwing anything and everything away would be completely fine. If for the purpose of eating that one, there would be no regrets in losing all that had been amassed until now. Don't want to savor anything other than that one. Don't want to fulfill oneself with anything other than that one. While sprinting, vomit leaked from the edge of Batankaitos' mouth. Pain or anguish were not the cause. It was merely unbearable. Articles he had trusted to be the finest were not so. Due to having become aware of what was supreme, all of what fulfilled his self was foul. Did he regard anything aside from that one as splendid? Commended anything aside from that one? Surfeited anything aside from that one? Simply what of him would be gourmet, should he love anything aside from the true splendid?
That's right. That is right. Isn't that right? Surely that is right. Certainly that is right. Indeed that is right. Because that is right. Because we wished for it to be right. Gluttonous drinking. Gluttony.
Surging appetite, hunger advancing towards fulfillment, and the outcry from his heart wishing for an imploring desire. The desire to become one, the desire to blend together. If appetite was to intake external existences, then the gluttony impelling his self was superlative love.
Love you, love you. Yes, love you. Nesama. No, Ram. We love you.
The maximal emotion blooming within his self, whilst he attempted to clamor it out loud. His words were abruptly interrupted. The cause of pain, and that it was the incident of a novel anguish. Checking his cheek, Batankaitos ascertained his palm dyed with rich blood. A fresh slash, a wound ripping Batankaitos' cheek, who had been heading towards the outside of the tower in order to escape, its cause being empty space. Wordlessly stretching his finger to that point, Batankaitos observed his finger be cut. In the empty space was an invisible blade. That was the same technique Batankaitos had displayed to Rom at the spiral staircase. The art of installing blades of invisibility in space was a legendary shinobi technique, but it did not matter whose memories those had been in, since he had already thrown them away. The issue was the presence of a blade here, which Batankaitos did not remember placing behind.
It can't be!
Avoiding the blade that had slightly cut his finger, Kaitos attempted to advance his feet further towards the interior. His tiptoes were blown off, and he inclined backwards while shrieking with a and, with the inclining back of his head also being shaved off slightly, he rigidified his face and stood still. He was enclosed by invisible blades.
Seriously?
He had shown it to her, merely once. Once, in the midst of battle, being an invisible technique as well, so she must not have seen it either. Moreover, she had not ever practically even stepped foot in this place. Yet regardless, she had seized his escape route and had stationed invisible blades in advance. Kaitos put his hand, not on his left eye, which had been slashed by the blade of wind and ceased functioning, but on his right eye, which was narrowly in good health. Through clairvoyance, Ram was jointly sharing this eye. She had not allowed Kaitos to escape. Overlapping with this eye, she would not let him escape. Kaitos laughed. No longer could he do anything but laugh. He had loved. For the first time, he had mightily, powerfully yearned for something. He was charmed by that unordinary essence. And
wait, please do wait. Hold on, just a bit more. Just a bit more. Just a bit more. So.
no matter how much he implored clairvoyance, the voice would reach. That was per knowledge. Thus, his frantic calls were not for the opponent to hear. They were for impelling his own self. In great fluster and haste, Kaitos held fast to the wall immediately beside him. He had done something impetuous by discarding away what he had eaten. If only the remarkable genius of the Fist King had remained, he could have overcome this facing no hardship. Deferring those emotions as well, Kaitos struck his arm into the invisible blades. The wrists of both of his hands erupting, blood cascaded out of the mouth of those wounds. It hurts, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts, but pain doesn't matter right now.
Please do accept our feelings. Please do watch over our wishes.
Merely pressing his arm spouting blood onto the wall, with all his strength, he drew letters. With dusky blood, using his small petite body with all his might, he drew enormous, gigantic letters onto the wall of the Tower of Sand. And, making his own self stand back, he viewed those letters with his right eye dilated. For those letters of blood depicted on the wall, to reach the one whom he eternally wished for from the bottom of his heart. Because if it was her, then certainly, until the very end of the end, she would kindly watch over whilst remaining overlapped with his own self.
I love you.
Before he could reach the end of his words, the Sin Archbishop of Gluttony was beheaded by a blade of wind.
Fula.
Swinging her finger, having hurled the blade of wind, Ram whispered merely a single word. Even if the proportion of magic affected its range of effect, its power itself did not undergo severe change. Not to mention, if only a slim neck was to be blown off through the cutting ability of the blade of wind, then even minimum power sufficed. Pursuing the back of Gluttony who had fled, Ram had fired a solitary blade of wind. Through clairvoyance, she had easily grasped the trail of Gluttony, making a desperate escape. She had employed certain tricks as a hurdle in his path for her aim to be precise, but they seemed to have functioned well for how hurriedly they had been constructed. And, on the brink of the final blade's arrival, Gluttony had taken abnormal conduct. Slashing off his own arms, and using that blood, he had drawn letters of blood onto the wall. Though that which was squalid and dreadfully arbitrary was malignant bedevilment possessing no worth to even be viewed. At the very end of the end, Having watched over the upward soar as those blood letters whirled and flew past, she closed her eyes. She had done so entirely because she could not have taken relief otherwise. She had not an atom of obligation that she ought to watch over them. The blasphemer had erred in his final choice. Had he put his life on the line for the sake of his younger siblings, Ram would not have denied him mercy either. However, putting aside the undeniable geniusness of his words, he had also used that as bait and deceived Ram, making it also a tool for his own self-survival. He likely did not know the method of restoring what had been eaten either. Had he known, he was supposed to have pleaded for his life with that as material for negotiation. He had not. Thus, he had received retribution.
Those who wield the sword fall to the sword. Those who cling to evil fall to evil. Those who yield to fire fall to fire. And those who wish for the Oni fall to the Oni, destroyed by what they rely on.
That was the divine providence of retribution Ram placed her faith in. Swinging her arm down, she let out a long exhale. Afterwards, Ram turned backwards, returning to the extensively ruined isle. She could not have fought at close vicinity, so she had taken upon herself to be further distant. A vexing sense of distance, hence Ram's gait spontaneously became restless.
Oh.
Once she made a return by treading through the collapsed wall, what greeted Ram was the cry of a tall ground dragon. That jet-black ground dragon had aptly maneuvered its body and concealed Rem's figure behind itself. Worst-case scenario, had the one to return not been Ram, then it perhaps intended to act like a shield or so. Despite being in such a tattered state, for it to gallantly abide by Subaru's command, it was truly a ground dragon too good for Subaru.
No, it's incorrect. Did you also wish to protect Rem? Yes, you truly are a good girl, Patricia.
She softly caressed that ground dragon's neck. It would also be necessary to immediately carry her wounded, injured self to the green room as well. Even the ground dragon who exemplified befitting loyalty could not be made to strain itself with these injuries. Neither did Ram wish to do anything preposterous to a person. To the dragon, who had been the benefactor of her younger sister. Subsequently expressing her gratitude to the ground dragon, Ram made her way to Rem, who was being protected behind her. The sharing of the horns might, by use of synesthesia, had already been undone, so no horn was present on her forehead. However, the recoil of having shouldered Ram's strength, commensurate with that of the Oni god, had definitely eaten into that body of hers, such that Ram herself felt heavy upon contemplating the recoil that surely would pay a call upon her soon. But
Right now, at this time, nothing boorish can be thought of.
gently kneeling down at her position, Ram positioned her hand under the cheek of her perpetually slumbering younger sister. The bond as sisters devoid of actual feeling is now accompanied by a far greater certitude of actual feeling compared to before. She felt feelings of love, of cherishing, overflow. With her horn broken off, having lost her might as the reincarnation of the Oni god, she had lived until today. For what purpose had that night of blazes befallen? Until now, Ram had surmised it had befallen for the purpose of making her herself. Neither did she consider that to be mistaken. However, starting today and this moment, that had changed. The reason why that day, Ram's horn had been broken off.
To realize today, here, that Ram is Rem's Ne-sama.
For she had been able to actually feel, with the contact between souls via synesthesia, that they were twins who shared the same world, that they were irreplaceable elder and younger sisters.
More than ever before, Ram wants to talk to you. What kind of a time did you and Ram spend? What kind of a yesterday did you and Ram collect? Let's replenish the lost memories together.
Since time flowed without halt, however many reminiscences of the future can be mounded. Thus, for everything to not fade, remaining unknown, remaining unremembered, day after day, let us make flowers bloom in reminiscence as many times as need be.
Let's talk a lot about what happened yesterday.
The sleeping beauty would not respond, although, without letting her chest congeal upon her silence, and instead fulfilling it with something, Ram smiled. Whilst smiling, with no longer any qualms for her own emotions, she moved her lips.
Ram loves you, Rem.
Certainly, no matter how the time they had collected between the two of them had been, these emotions alone would not turn traitor. Enigmatically, upon vocalizing what was identical to the last words of the distorted Sin Archbishop, though was ultimately the same thing, it had not echoed the same. Those who were unbeknownst to love, and those who lived in love, never could they ever echo the same. Never could they echo the same. And that's the chapter!
Thank you, TLD.
Amazing.
ALD.
Woo! There were some rough words in there. I'm sorry. Woo!
There's a bit.
Yeah.
Fucking double victory for Amelia Camp this stream.
Woohoo!
Woo!
Thank you, Dudley. Queen Rom indeed.
Thank you so much.
Mm,
Thank you so much.
And,
Thank you.
I love this chapter so much. It's so so good. It's genuinely making me tear up a bit going back through it.
Aw.
Oh, we've won at least a little bit.
Well,
We
if you're
don't-
still muted, by the way, if you're trying to talk.
Hello.
I was not
There he
muted on
is.
stream,
Woohoo!
but I was muted on the score.
Oh, whoops.
That is not a way I fucked up before. That's really fun.
That's
Yay, something new!
Fuck up. Ugh, I love her so much.
Oh, she's the
Just
best.
Queen Rom chapter.
uh,
Genuinely one of the
Also-
best.
We might want to change the want it to just want. Because I am aware of what it sounded like.
It's fine. It's fine. It's just describing her size.
Ah, yes, gluttony. Truly got eyes for what's important.
Yep.
Exactly. Exactly. I cannot believe he's gone. It's crazy. He's dead. We
Mhm.
did it.
This
Ding
terrified
dong,
me
Glennis,
so
he's dead.
much
Do, do,
reading
do.
it the first time. Like, did she screw up? Is like Rem permanently lost now?
Mhm.
It's like they don't know how to fix it.
That's true. Has that an option just been closed?
Mhm.
But
In
I mean,
theory, we'll find out.
yeah, you gotta trust her the understanding of, well, if he could let her go, he would have done so in order to bargain for his life.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
he didn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So was
Naisama
logic.
is
Either-
far too kind.
Either I gained something from him dying, or it gets rid of an evil menace who is ruining the world.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep,
Oh.
both as Wisp says, both gluttonies got taken down this chapter.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah. So now we just have the weird spectre that is Louis.
Yep.
Fuck's her deal.
Whee!
Well,
Louis
even
still
the-
here. It's okay.
Like, can they even get back to her? Because the
Yeah.
way to get to her was
With
through
Reed's
Reed's
book.
book,
Yeah.
which was
Mhm.
empty because his existence
Was
was
being
moved from the
projected.
book to the tower.
Yeah.
That was then eaten by Roy and unable to be sustained is now gone.
I
So-
mean, theoretically, Subaru's book still exists.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Subaru's books weren't gates in
Mhm.
necessarily.
Mhm.
He was just using them to regain his own memories
Mhm.
and realize that Rem was best girl the whole time. As he confessed to himself.
Important revelation.
It
Dun,
is an
dun,
important
dun.
revelation. Even Rom realizes it this chapter.
Mhm.
Yep.
She may not have had too many lines this chapter, but I want to throw my appreciation on to Patricia as well. She is best girl. That girl for
Oh, yeah.
for
Bless
everyone.
Patricia.
Too good for
Too good
soup.
for this
It's
world.
way too good.
She
You're
actually-
too good for
And she
Barasu.
knows it too. That's what's fun. She knows she's bad, but she still loves him. It's very cute.
Yeah.
She's like that dog that you know can somehow understand all your mistakes, but loves you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It looks at you with those judging eyes, and it's like, I'm still here. What does that say about you?
You're just going to do that right in front. Okay, yeah, all right. Well,
It's a good thing
I've seen
I'm
what
the
you
most
do
loyal
when you think
creature.
the door is closed.
I've seen many things, perhaps too much.
I might not be able to read, but I can see the images on your computer, and you need to talk to somebody.
And yeah, as Jay Dudley mentions, it's really nice to see Ram just be like, Patricy, you're the greatest.
Yeah, you're pretty great too. Thanks for protecting Rem.
we love some girl on girl wholesome appreciation.
Yeah. Ram is just also so savage this whole chapter.
She is. It's
Yeah.
it's like she turned up to 11 when as soon as Rem got involved. She was like, "Oh, so that's how this is gonna be, huh?"
She's taunting him like a Dragon Ball villain does. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm
Yeah.
really gonna fight you with both my arms behind my back, not using them at 50% power. You still won't be able to touch me. And then they get humbled. Only she
Yeah.
doesn't get humbled. It's just proven like, no, yeah, she's that bitch.
Also, she is so that bitch that she just used an invisible technique that with wind magic, which is the most powerful offensive magic to our knowledge, is so dangerous and scary. Like it's if her being able to do that is insane.
And she saw it once.
Yeah,
he
she-
did it
Yep.
once.
Yeah. That's talent right there. It's not fair.
Yep.
And then even afterwards, she's like, "Man, I threw that together really quickly. I'm glad it worked."
Yep.
Yeah. It's like, this is crazy. I pulled off 2 extra
Like,
shackles
"Whoa, this was
and
slapdash, but dang, whew."
I'm still only probably at 50% power.
Yeah.
No, less, because I would have gotten better since I was a
Ooh,
kid.
yeah.
Now this is the really scary thing. Ram may not have been Ram if she lived to be the Oni God, but the Oni God certainly would have killed a lot of people. Like
Oh yeah.
top 5, top 3 most powerful creature in the world at that point. It's not even funny.
Well, it's like Tap even said that if Rom had been born with both of her horns, she would be at the level of Reinhard and
Yeah.
Patella.
Like world class threat.
Yeah.
She
So-
had to be nerfed by the devs.
Yeah, exactly. She 2-horned Rom is top 3 in the entire world, which is a ridiculous level of power.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's insane. So
The
respect
concept
on
of
her
Julius even getting a hit on someone at that level is meant to be like the most astounding thing in this entire arc.
name. Yeah. That was a very satisfying couple of chapters, though, eh?
Sure was.
yeah.
We've been building up to this for a while, and it's so nice seeing so many of these characters' arcs culminate here. Like, it feels so good. Also,
All right.
Like-
We have it going a really long time, and it
I
has
think
been
everyone's burnt out.
Everyone's tapped.
almost 4 hours.
let me rest, boss. Okay, it has been
Hey!
a wonderful stream. Thank you everyone for being here.
Sorry.
And I hope you all have a wonderful day or evening wherever you are. Goodbye!
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
guys.